time. Asha has done a good job again. So I may not have called out all the names, but these are some of the names that have just got registered in my mind because of the recency effect. So today's session is our culmination, and what I intend to do is two things. One is I'll take you through the last stage of design thinking, which is called scale, and give you a few tips on how to scale your ideas. And finally, today we'll have a closure in terms of all of you sharing two things with me. So please make a note of the overall flow so that you're prepared and we can close on time, which is at 5 o'clock. So the first thing would be a quick update on the next steps. The second would be each one of you have to write down two major takeaways that you had from the overarching session and one question from me. From your takeaways, what would really interest me is your question, your very specific question, which would definitely help all of us improve our understanding of creative problem solving, innovation, and design thinking. Okay. So with that, let me straight away jump into the last leg of our discussion. Now, this is something that I would want you to incorporate in your final presentations whenever you're making it. Each of these discussions going forward will be one-on-one discussions. And since it's something that would benefit you, it's best that you take exclusive time out, half hour over the next 1 week, and seek the inputs from me. The closure of your project also depends on how well you do it, and that governs your certification. So the cutout date for you to submit your project reports is 31st of March. Okay, you'll be getting a certificate from me. Let me give you a sample certificate, an example of a certificate. So this is how a certificate that you would be getting would look like. Okay, there is a certificate. Let me just So this is the design thinking certificate.
We're not able to see anything.
Yeah, I'm just I'm putting it up. I'm putting it up.
So good afternoon, Shivani here. In the meantime, can I make a small request, please? Yes. So, sir, while we were working on our project, so we are three people in the group, Priya and Francis. So as it is, while working, so one, it was very, very interactive, you giving us this platform. So we wanted, as you rightly said today, it will be good if we can connect with you. But before connecting individually, we wanted to have one group connect with you, because we have our own perspective, and then we try to discuss it amongst ourselves. So we wanted your expert opinion on that. So will it be okay if we book one slot wherein all three of us can connect together on our project?
Yes.
Thank you so much, sir.
Absolutely.
We'll separately write to you, looking at everyone's availability and convenience. We'll block a slot in the coming week.
Absolutely. Let's do that. I think that's a good
Thank
point.
you, sir.
Yeah. So we should be able to do that. Absolutely, no worries at all. So we'll do it for both the individual as well as the group. I'm unable to fetch the certificate, which was from the last year or the last session we had. But then this is something which is available on LinkedIn also. So if you simply go to LinkedIn and fetch the certificate. So what a certificate contains essentially is three things. One is it will have details of your project title. So you have to send a project title to Arun, marking a copy to me, and then I'll be giving you marks on a scale of 1 to 5. I'll give you marks on how well you have done your project, and that is how your final project report would look like. So this is very, very critical juncture of your overall progress. So I would strongly recommend you to take it very, very seriously. Having said that, I'll try and see if I can fetch the certificate. I've not shared the screen, Anand, so I could not fetch the certificate. It's somewhere embedded in my emails. Okay, but when I get the certificate, I will definitely share that with you. Okay, so I'm unable to find that certificate right now. It was long time back. I think it was in the month of September or October is when we had that certification program. So that's why it is. Maybe I'll ask, Lakshmi from NHRD team to fetch the certificate for us. So that can be possibly a resort that we can look at. Having said that, if any one of you has any query for me, please feel free to ask me right now. Else I would start off with my last leg of the presentation, if that is fine by all of you.
I have one.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
See, this project which you had mentored for the students of IIM Rohtak,
Mm-hmm.
and over there, what I noticed was
Mm-hmm.
that there is a lot of
Mm-hmm.
description of the problems faced and why they were faced. One part.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow, I mean, it was okay since you were mentoring the students. The focus was
Mm-hmm.
on the students, what is their journey through the training program. Simultaneously, there was a clear absence of empathy for the managers and staff and others working in the companies where they went in for an internship. See, there were a lot of expectations from the other.
Mm-hmm.
So uh,
Mm-hmm.
now my question comes. It's a little subsequent. See, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you have been working as a freelance trainer and a facilitator in this field of design thinking and maybe other areas as well. Uh, as a trainer
Mm-hmm.
or a consultant who goes into a company,
Mm-hmm.
he also faces the same dilemmas that the managers or employees are too busy to devote any attention, and maybe the engaging client was somebody else, and the client interacting with the facilitator, me as a trainer or facilitator, is someone else. So herein, how do I make use of that? Was my initial goal, but I couldn't come to it. How to make use of design thinking in designing my training program and intervention in this kind of a situation?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Shall
So
shall
that's
I?
a very interesting. Now I got the drift. Yeah, I got the drift. Yeah, you have to add something to this. Please go ahead.
No, what I'm saying is I want to learn from your personal experience. See, you have been in this for long years doing this, and I intend to enter in another 6 months, maybe. So what I'm saying is that the dilemma or situation which those students faced in the targeted organization, any trainer or a consultant faces in the organization he is dealing with. So, in spite of that cultural constraint, how do I cope up and design my intervention in such a way using DT that I'm able to cope up with these feelings?
No, that's true. So I think one of the approaches that definitely comes in handy is the importance of empathy. That how to empathize with your stakeholders. See, before they empathize with you, you need to do so with them. That's very, very important. That's always the starting point.
Okay.
And the second thing is understanding the big picture purpose. And the reason why we are unable to empathize with the larger stakeholder is because they are not aligned towards a big picture purpose. So by showing them the big picture and by reinforcing the big picture at all times and by being empathetic to their purposes, you would be able to really ensure that you are aligned with them. Otherwise, there is no reason why they should oblige to listen to you or comply. Anyways, you're an outsider. So your stake is obviously lower than the stake of them because they're the employees of the organization. So these are some of the practices which have helped me also tremendously when I engage with corporates. So that's my view, Sandeep. That's how I would like to put it.
Yeah. Are you through, Pawan? Or are you adding something?
No, I'm good. Go ahead, please.
Okay. One supplementary is a 2-day program, sort of a workshop or an introductory primer for DT as a startup. Okay, to start with.
2 days good. Absolutely, 2 days good. Now, for example, I would be doing a program which is a 3-day program. We are doing it for Schneider.
Okay.
And this is a 3-day program that I'll be doing in Bangalore.
Mhm.
And this is a physical program. So now I'm going into 2-3 days, 4-day kind of intense programs. I'm doing a program for a company in Bangladesh on Monday. This is again a short program where we are looking at some very specific aspect of design thinking. So instead of trying to do it end to end, all the stages of design thinking, what always helps is to focus on one aspect, which could be about empathizing or discovery, or creative ideation, or prototyping, so that you
Okay.
can have adequate focus. Yeah, so that's been the approach, Sandeep.
So as an introductory primer, you endorse that 2 days thing is okay.
It's a good starting point, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
2 days is a good starting point. Yeah. Okay. Good questions. So let me share the certificate format with all of you. This is how the certificate looks like, team. Can you see the screen? This is your certificate.
Yeah.
This is called Certificate of Participation. This is to certify, Bindu Ajit, Program Dean, Biocon Academy, has undergone an intense workshop on design thinking for people managers, June-July 2020. Under the guidance of Dr. Pawan Soni, participant took the project titled Restart and Upskill Student During COVID. So this one statement title, you have to give it to me, and has shown outstanding performance. So this phrase outstanding changes from person to person. So on a scale of 1 to 5, I have given outstanding, satisfactory, okay, and good. So depending upon what is the quality of your presentation, it is undersigned by Smita Saha, who is the president of NHRD Bangalore chapter, and by yours truly. So this is how your certificate would look like. So Bindu was our participant from the last cohort. She works with Biocon, and she happened to also got this thing framed. She thought and she did a fantastic project, by the way. So that's the reason she got an outstanding performance. So my request to all of you would be, please send in your project titles and your project presentations latest by 31st of March, and ensure that you are seeking individual or group presentation slots and discussion slots with me. I'll be very liberal, honestly speaking. I would love to talk with each one of you. You have to show the initiative. My pushing stops today. Today onwards, NHRD will not be responsible. I would not be responsible. You would be responsible to ensure that you are taking the most out of the given opportunities. So I hope I'm adequately clear. With that, let me quickly jump on to the last leg of our discussion. And this leg is called as scale. Because I strongly believe that scaling of an idea is arguably the only proof that the idea really exists. If you are unable to scale that particular idea, then there is absolutely no reason why somebody would believe in that idea of yours. And that is where we look at the scaling of the idea. So last time around, we discussed about the SCQA principle, if you recollect. Okay. And we discussed how you can be an extremely good storyteller as a result of that. So you remember the SCQA principle, team? Are you all conversant with the philosophy of SCQA? Can you please acknowledge that? Yeah, and I saw in your presentations you used SCQA, which is very, very heartening to see. So here is my presentation. Let me pull it up real quick. Any other question, team? Since it's our last engagement day today, I would not want you to leave any stone unturned. Any question that you may want to ask me, anything. It doesn't have to be primarily around design thinking or your project. It could be pretty much anything under your career choices, problems that you might be facing, etc. Yeah, Nana, you have a question for me? Asha? Anyone?
Yeah, so good afternoon and good afternoon to all of you all.
Very good afternoon.
I have a question. Yeah,
Yes,
I
please.
have a question.
Mhm.
Basically, we are talking about empathy and people-centric approach. And
Mhm.
being in HR, this is the main thing which we look at about people and their benefits and how comfortable they are. My question here, or my doubt, is that when we do a design thinking, particularly when it emphasizes on human centricity and empathy, people or the employees' needs vary, keeps changing, may not be stable always. So how do we approach a solution there? How do we say that, yes, this is the solution? And would they be satisfied with that solution as their needs keep changing? So how
Yeah,
is design
good question.
thinking coming into force out there?
It's a good question, Asha. Do you remember that when we were starting off with design thinking, we had three dimensions that we need to simultaneously satisfy: customer desirability, technical feasibility, and business viability. Now, if I am only focusing on customer desirability, and in this case, my customer is my employee, then I might commit myself to something which is neither good for the business nor possible for you to execute at a scale level. And that's why you need to always balance what the customers or the employees may ask versus what the system or the organization would demand. So as an HR professional, you need to keep your business objective in mind, your bandwidth and capacities in mind, and at the same time your customer desirability in mind. The problem often happens is when you are unable to communicate the realities to your customers. You do not communicate that, hey, the company is going through a very tough time, and because of which you would have to put in that extra effort, or because of which you may not be able to get your appraisals on time. By not communicating that, and we don't communicate either because we don't want to burn the bridges, or we think that the customer would understand without being communicating, and that's where we get into a very bad situation of poor communication. So I think over communication is always advisable as against under communication, and you need to ensure that you are sort of balancing the triple requirement of desirability and feasibility. Does that address your question, Nasha?
Yes, yes, Professor. It's clear now. Thank you.
All right. Glad. Happy. Okay, so here is the last stage of design thinking, which is called scale. And I could never ever overemphasize on the importance of scale, because the real impact that you would be creating about your idea will only happen outside your lab. Right now, all of you are sitting in a lab with me. We are experimenting. You have come up with a very beautiful presentation, but you need to go out in the reality, out in the market, in the wilderness, and ensure that your best laid out plans work to the T. There are three models which I would advocate. The first is called Three Horizons of Strategy. Second is called Business Model Canvas. And third one is OKR, that stands for Objectives and Key Results. What is the Three Horizon of Strategy? So Three Horizon of Strategy talks about the long range. Now, do you think that all the ideas which you have, you would be able to implement in the next 1 month, 2 months, or even 6 months? Yes, no? What do you think? Would you have some idea that will really take a long time and will give you results after a while, which is your pipeline ideas? I'm sure there are some of those ideas. You don't want to drop those ideas. Just because an idea does not give you result in the next 6 months doesn't mean that's a bad idea. So how do you look at the long range? And that's where we have this very beautiful, elegant model called Three Horizons of Planning. The horizon one, which is a near-term horizon, talks about operations and extending the core. What are some of the ideas which you have that will ensure that the current ways of doing things are improving? It could be in terms of more efficiency, speed, cost reduction, etc. That's your horizon one. The horizon two talks about new type of businesses that your entity can build, or new opportunities that you can explore, which are adjacent opportunities. Adjacent opportunities means that right now you are selling the product X, like a car, to your, well, let me take Sandeep and Nana's project of coming up with a new space when there is none available. Now, Horizon 1 would be ensuring that this space is operational within the next X months. Horizon 2 would be that can we replicate that model across the plants and ensure that everywhere where space utilization is not adequately done, we can replicate this model. That's Horizon 2. And Horizon 3 is a visionary exercise. Can we create a viable option? Can we create an option where, with the advent of automation or artificial intelligence, we can increase our productivity even better than the space utilization that we have achieved? And each of these things have to be thought out today, but the way they get rolled out happens over a period of time. So that is a distinction between Horizon 1, Horizon 2, and Horizon 3. To demonstrate this, let me show you a video. But before that, can any one of you take a guess that which company created the concept of 3 horizons of planning? Any idea? Which company comes to your mind? M&M. Okay.
They have got
3M,
Horizon 1,
GE.
2, and 3 available at R&D.
Very good. Absolutely. So which is the original contributor to the 3 horizon of planning? Raja, you are pretty close. G is pretty close, but not exactly the company. No, not Motorola Francis, not 3M Michael. I would like everyone to take a guess. Guessing is pretty non-hazardous in our context, at least. Shell is a good guess, Asif. Shell actually introduced this concept of scenario planning, which is very popular. Toyota, Microsoft, Apple, GMR, all these companies adopted the concept of GM, adopted the concept of 3 horizon. But which is the original creator of 3 horizon of planning? So Raja, to your comment on GE, absolutely, Manoj, that is the company, McKinsey and Company.
McKinsey.
So McKinsey and Company came up with this radical concept, absolutely, of 3 horizon. And whom were they working with? They were working with GE. So let us understand the 3 horizon of GE. Now look at GE locomotives or GE aircraft manufacturers. So GE makes, as you all know, aircraft engine. So what is Horizon 1? Horizon 1 would be that how do I reach out to more and more aircraft manufacturers, including Boeing and Airbus, to have GE's engine as their preferred engine. That's your Horizon 1. Clear. Now let us go to Horizon 2. Horizon 2 would mean that can I have my engines with lower weight, higher efficiencies, higher means significantly higher efficiencies, by exploring different business models, such as renting the engine as compared to selling the engine. So GE has this concept that instead of Boeing buying the engine from GE, Boeing can rent the engine from GE, and basically the number of miles that the aircraft is traveling, Boeing will be paying to GE, whereas GE will be taking care of end-to-end maintenance of the engine. That's your Horizon 2. And Horizon 3 could be the adoption of IoT, Internet of Things. That can I do real-time monitoring of the performance of my engine and preventive maintenance for all the fleet of engines across the world, wherever a GE aircraft is working or G engine is working, and give that IoT based solution as a service to Rolls-Royce and Pratt and Whitney, were the other 2 engine makers. That is your Horizon 3. Now I cannot look at Horizon 3 at the cost of my Horizon 1. Similarly, if you look at all the ideas, like Michael's ideas on knowledge management or Anand's ideas on coming up with a augmented reality based SOP. So Horizon 1 would be to simplify the SOP. Horizon 2 would be augmentation of SOP with artificial intelligence, gamification, competition, simplification, etc. And the Horizon 3 in the case of Anand could possibly be that how across the organization and not only for SOPs, for even induction program, employee training, well-being, learning, we can have more and more augmented reality being used. So that is your Horizon 3. Similarly, for Shivani and team who is looking at agility embraced in the space of human resources, a Horizon 3 could be that instead of human resource function being a support function to the organization, can human resource function be a profit center? Today, HR function is a cost center for any company. Can it be a profit center? We become so agile that we can actually start building our employee functions or business functions as if we are doing some cross pricing or transfer pricing. For example, I train my employees and my employees give high productivity benefit to the manufacturing team. Then the manufacturing team pays money back to the HR team because HR team helped them achieve better results. That could be a Horizon 3. So Horizon 3 will technically open up different ways of looking at things, and some of the ideas, not too many, 1 or 2 can get slotted right there. Let me give you an example of that.
McKinsey looked at organizations that were consistently able to grow and noticed that their leaders simultaneously focused on 3 time horizons: the near term, the midterm, and the long term. Horizon 1 is the near term. It's the next quarter. Here, leaders drive execution. They make the trains run. Without this focus, the numbers aren't met and shareholders are disappointed. Most leaders are really good at this work. Horizon 2 is the midterm. Here, leaders are planning how to meet next year's numbers. They're experimenting. They spend their time testing products and services to make sure they are ready for Horizon 1. Some leaders do a good job here, but some do not. Horizon 3 is the long term. It varies by industry, but is typically a couple of years out. Here, leaders are generating new insights and spotting new ideas. They are looking for product and services ideas to test in Horizon 2. Very few leaders thrive here. We are really describing an organization pipeline. Horizon 3 feeds Horizon 2, and Horizon 2 in turn feeds Horizon 1. If you are missing or ignoring a horizon, then the pipeline breaks down. You can spot a future breakdown in your organization by observing how your leaders spend their time. What % of their time do they spend in Horizon 1, managing the existing products and services? In Horizon 2, proving out new ideas? And finally, how much of their time do they spend in Horizon 3, discovering and generating fresh new ideas?
Okay, team. So I hope this video helped you to understand Horizon 1, Horizon 2, Horizon 3. My only question to you would be, and please write down your responses on the text. Do you think that the 3 horizon planning as a manager, you do simultaneously or you do sequentially? How do you do it? Does it happen simultaneously or sequentially? Absolutely, Michael, Sandeep, and Francis. No, it happens simultaneously. Francis, not sequentially. It is always simultaneously. See, you cannot wait for your Horizon 3 to come late, because Horizon 3 feeds into Horizon 2, which feeds into Horizon 1. So you always need to have Horizon 3. And do you think the 3 horizon framework can also be applicable to your life and career? Do you think so? Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. For example, Michael was telling me the other day that he wants to teach knowledge management. Or Sandeep, right, from Dana Corporation. Sandeep is a very seasoned uh, coach and a trainer and a practitioner on creative problem solving. So Horizon 3 for Sandeep would be to beef up his cavalry of problem solving skills and creative skills with the elements of design thinking. That's Horizon 1 for him. Horizon 2 would be develop his own course curriculum on creative problem solving techniques, which he has picked up from Arabon, working at Anand, now Dana, this program, and several other programs that Sandeep and Nana would have gone through. That's Horizon 2 for you. And Horizon 3 could possibly be start his own company, right, Sandeep? Tomorrow, you can start your own company. So much of a knowledge that you have on this subject, you can. That's Horizon 3. So my request to all of you would be, even if you are neck deep into Horizon 1, you should never ever take your eyes off Horizon 2 and Horizon 3. Similarly, Michael can start off a design thinking program within his own team of knowledge management at the consulting organization. That very much can happen. And that is how you have to always look at the 3 horizons. I hope this was useful, team. How do you plot the various ideas that you generated in design thinking into the 3 horizons? Is it useful? How do you scale it? Because don't put all the ideas in H1, because if you do so, you would realize that you are not really preparing yourself for the future. You're not what we call as future proofing yourself, which can be a challenging aspect. The second model that we have is called as your business model canvas. So what's a business model canvas? Business model canvas is a wonderful exhibition of a strategic thinking demonstrated by this PhD student. Francis, you have a question? Please go ahead. You can
Thank you,
unmute
doctor.
and ask.
Doctor, actually, I have doubt, now I have an idea, then I am improvising on it. Then after optimizing that idea, I may get to the saturation and disrupt, and then I go for alternative one. So while doing this exercise, I am actually doing sequentially, right? And then I may reiterate and then go back again and do. And can you elaborate? Because first one is a black field, then the brownfield, whatever I build, I improvise, continuous improvement. Then I disrupt, radical redesign. So these three are, happen so that I will realize, I will get realization that no, it's not working. So I need to look at other alternative. So this is a doubt I have.
That's a good observation, and I think that's why you wrote the word sequentially. Am I right?
Yes,
Instead
doctor.
of simultaneously.
Yeah.
I get the drift. So the thing is that at an organization level, when you are running these projects, you can start to delegate. So there is a certain team that will work only on Horizon 1, certain team will work on Horizon 2, and certain team will be given the license to work on Horizon 3. But all of them will have to work simultaneously. So even in your personal self, when you do not have anyone to delegate your idea to, you need to work on these things simultaneously. Let me give you an example. Now, I wrote this book, Design Your Thinking, last year. Now, if I want to write my new book, which is on innovation culture, which horizon would that fall into? H1, H2, or H3?
H3. Disruptive.
If I want to write new book on innovation culture, H3.
H3,
but do you think I'll still have to write H2 or H3? Definitely not H1, isn't it? It's not H1 project for me because I'm still cooling down from the writing expedition of the last year, and I want my current book to do well before I put more money and more effort into a new book. But
H3.
do you think I have to still write every day? Yeah, even if it is H3, do you think still I have to write on a daily basis at least one page, one paragraph, read something about H3? The answer is yes.
Yes.
Yes,
So
yes,
H2, H3 tells you the time it takes to realize the investment. But that does not mean that you should not invest today. Even if it is H3 project, I still have to do it on a daily basis. Now, working on this presentation, reviewing your work, that's a H1 for me. It cannot wait beyond March. It's clearly H1 for me. H2 is some of the work which I'm doing my thesis advisor at IIM Bangalore to give shape to some of those papers. And H3. So the thing about your work style is that on any given day, you should give 70% of your time to H1 projects. Okay. 20% of your time should go to H2 project and 10% of the time should go to H3 project. But every day you have to give time to all the three horizons. Francis, does it make sense to you now?
Yeah, now clear now.
So
now
even
clear.
if mentally you might be doing it, yeah, because many people make this classic mistake that they do all of their entire days into H1. They consume H1 only. They don't think of H2, H3, and then they are taken by surprise. And so they are not thinking about their future career, about the future alternates.
Is it similar to the de Bono?
Having said that,
Doctor, the lateral thinking, we need to wear a different caps. Instead of vertically digging, we have to laterally. Is it connected to that as well? We need to, open, having an open mind and exploring different options as well. Yeah.
You can, of course,
Yes,
Francis, we can borrow the concept of six thinking hats and lateral thinking into this. But six thinking hats, lateral thinking still talks about solving the problem at hand. But H3 is not necessarily solving a problem. Most H1 is problem solving. H2, H3 is not problem solving. H2, H3 is opportunity creation. So that is where you can use six thinking hats and lateral thinking, but I would not equate the two as the three horizons.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, let me move on. No worries, Francis. Let me move on to business model canvas. This is a very beautiful example of how do you put your entire presentation, entire strategy into one single slide. Let me take the example of Raja. So Raja is trying to give holistic education to children. Now, obviously, what Raja understands is that it cannot be every child in the country. He is looking at HNI. Am I right, Raja? HNI
That's
parents?
right. Yeah.
High net worth individuals, right? Now let us start by understanding Raja's business model canvas. Okay, all of you please follow me closely on this. He starts with value proposition. That why should somebody engage with Raja and his team? What is the value proposition? And his value proposition could be holistic understanding of the child, holistic development of the child, and discovering your child's true talent and one-on-one coaching and mentoring to the child. Suppose that is his value proposition. Then comes your customer segment. Who is a customer segment? He says the customer segment are the families which have a annual salary of at least 50 lakh rupees and above. They're mostly in the urban dwelling setting, and they do not mind sending their children to a day boarding school. That's my customer segment. In any business, my friends, you need to remember and understand who is not your customer as much as understanding who is your customer, right? So for Sandeep, if he wants to coach entrepreneurs, Sandeep should understand that not every entrepreneur is coachable. Please understand that. Not everyone is amicable to be coached. There are people who want to learn the tough way through their own learning, and then there are people who want to be coached. So he
Yeah.
needs to understand that who is the category that is not worth coaching, and I should not burn my time behind those people. India has such a big population that even if I take a small fraction of people who are aspiring entrepreneurs, still I can run a decent business. Then comes customer relationship. How will Raja reach out to all these people? Will he send email campaign? Will he do some sort of a poster? Will he reach out on LinkedIn? Will he join these events which are to do with franchisee India event, socializing event? Will he look at his personal connects? How will he build that rapport with them? That's called customer relationship. Then comes distribution channel. Distribution channel means the physical place at which he'll be giving his classes. Will it be tying up with an existing school like that, Bangalore International School or Indus Valley School, etc., etc., or will he come up with a different infrastructure? Then comes key activities. To run as a school, what are the key activities that he needs to do? Maybe design a new course curriculum, train faculty members, come up with a different design of the whole place. Key resources. What are the things that he needs to have? He needs to have his own course content. He needs to have his own faculty members, his own brand, his own proprietary intellectual property, and the key partners, because he can't obviously do everything on his own. He needs to work with people. What does it cost him? What's his cost structure? And what are the various ways in which he makes money? What are the various revenue streams? Revenue streams can be the tuition fee, sponsorship, tests, international assignments, travel, camps. All of these could potentially be the revenue sources for him. So if tomorrow Raja has to reach out to an investor, which hopefully he should be, and many of you would be if you are really serious about taking your ideas forward at your organization or outside, even in your company, you meet investors. They're called your supervisors or your senior management team. So when you reach out to the senior fellows in any organization, you always have to go with one single pitch. And this is that one single slide that you would always want to go with. Does it make sense to all of you, team? That why is it called a business model canvas and how it very succinctly encapsulates all the aspects of what it takes to represent an organization or an idea? Having said that, let me show you a video which will further reinforce. Sandeep, you have a question for me? Sandeep Gandhi?
No.
Okay, all right. So let me move on and show you a video. I hope this will further reinforce what I just said. It's a beautiful one slider, by the way. If you really put your effort, I have seen this miraculously cleansing your thinking. I always believe that you write well so that you think well. People who don't write are also not good thinkers. They're not very clear thinkers. Is this missing out on what is the business potential in terms of revenue? Yeah, Pinani, the business potential is the way you can make money, the various revenue streams that you would be having. It doesn't have to be dollar figure. It can even be the various ways in which you will commercialize your entity. So if you can put a dollar figure, for example, in your projects, which is to do with employee engagement, employee collaboration, employee training, you would not have a revenue stream, but you will have a cost structure. But the revenue stream for you could be that if the employees have better coordination, collaboration, high level of training hours, etc., they would be in a better position to contribute to the business. So that is the upside to the business in terms of revenue. Does it make sense, Pinani?
I got it. Yeah.
All right. So revenue is only for hard numbers in the external world, but for the internal world, it could be replaced with the business benefits. Let me roll the video for all of you.
An org can be described with 9 basic building blocks: your customer segments, your value proposition for each segment, the channels to reach customers, customer relationships you establish, the revenue streams you generate, the key resources and key activities you require to create value, the key partners, and the cost structure of the business model. But it's not sufficient to just enumerate the 9 building blocks. What you really want to do is to map them out on a pre-structured canvas. This is what we call the business model canvas, a tool that helps you map, discuss, design, and invent new business models. Let's briefly go through the 9 building blocks, starting with the customer segments. These are all the people or organizations for which you're creating value. This includes simple users and paying customers. For each segment, you have a specific value proposition. These are the bundles of products and services that create value for your customers. The channels describe through which touchpoints you're interacting with customers and delivering value. Customer relationships outline the type of relationship you're establishing with your customers. Revenue streams make clear how and through which pricing mechanisms your business model is capturing value. Then you need to describe the infrastructure to create, deliver, and capture value. The key resources show which assets are indispensable in your business model. The key activities show which things you really need to be able to perform well. The key partners show who can help you leverage your business model, since you won't own all key resources yourself, nor will you perform all key activities. Then once you understand your business model's infrastructure, you'll also have an idea of its cost structure. So with the business model canvas, you can map out your entire business model in one image. This works for startup entrepreneurs just as well as for the most senior executives.
Okay, so I hope this was useful for you to understand business model canvas. There's a brilliant book that further explains the concept of business model canvas. It is called Business Model Generation. So if you have to really communicate your idea to your senior leadership team, you can blend the BMC, the business model canvas, plus the SCQA model. Between the BMC and the SCQA model, you will be pretty much covered in terms of how you really strike a conversation with your key stakeholders. Is it useful, team, to understand what is a business model canvas? It's a beautiful concept if you really pay close attention to it and really try and apply that. It can be remarkably effective, trust me. And as I coach startup enterprises, executives, etc., this can really turn out to be a game changer because it pushes you to think about things that you would not have otherwise thought about. Finally, the last thing for the day for you is, how do you convert your plan into actionable? The biggest challenge that we have is, how do you execute ideas? Your supervisor agrees on your ideas. Okay, ideas are great. Now tell me the plan, the execution plan. Would you be interested in understanding the plan for executing ideas? So far, we're talking about ideas. Now we get into the execution of ideas, because ultimately you have to show the ideas the light of the day. Otherwise, people will not trust you. Correct? How do you execute? And once again, when it comes to execution of ideas, there are very few companies in the world which are as good as Google. Google has time and again demonstrated the power of thinking wild, thinking big, audacious, at the same time backing that wild thinking with impeccable amount of execution. And in that respect, we have this amazing tool available to us, which is called as OKR, Objective and Key Result. Objective and Key Result dates back to Peter Drucker. So Peter Drucker was the founding father of management by objective, which was then championed by David Packard at Hewlett Packard, later on perfected by Andy Grove of Intel, and then it was taken over to Google by John Doerr, who was a former executive at Intel. And objective and key result is a very, very simple model that we have available to us to understand what you need to achieve and how. So what is objective? Objective means what you want to achieve, and key result simply means how. Now, a good OKR checklist is, it is hard and clearly defined goals. For example, a goal for Sandeep could be that Sandeep Gandhi could be that by so and so date, I need to create X square feet of space. That's an objective. What are the 5 things I need to do? The 5 things will be the top 5 ideas that he will have from his presentation. Similarly for Anand, the objective could be automation of SOP to all the employees in a given process, the compression process. Now, what are the 5 things that I need to do? So objective will tell you what you want to achieve, and the key result will tell you how you achieve it. The key results should typically be quantitative. So for example, for Michael, the key result could be ensuring that we have this competitive marks based policy where people can submit their ideas. Okay. For Kashmira, it could be about how do we arrest the attrition from X to Y. That could be the objective, and the key results for her would be these are the 5 things that I need to do to be able to achieve my key results within a given stated time. For you to really read more on OKR, I have this very amazing book by John Doerr. I'll write the title of the book, and I'm hoping that you are making a note of all the books, because it's good for you, because all these courses can only tease you. They can't teach you. Okay, I can only tease you. You see, I cannot teach you. So when I tease you with my content, with my speaking, and of course a whole range of books that you can potentially grab yourself to beef up on. So the title of the book is Measure What Matters, and that's by John Doerr. John Doerr is a investor, entrepreneur, and amazing person. And in this book, he talks about his days at Intel and several other organizations that he has mentored, including, of course, Apple and Google. So key result, Raja, is a good question. The key result, it is called that if done well, this is what these items would result into. That's why this is called key result. If these activities are done well, this is what it would result into. So that's how the nomenclature, the key results are stuck. So you're right in saying that, objective is, let me just write it down. Objective is what, and key results is how. Objective is what you want to achieve, and key result is how. Once you read this book, you will understand how powerful some of these things could be. So suppose you delegate it to somebody, or even discipline yourself. If you're really willing to go all the way out and discipline yourself, I think this can be an enormously beneficial approach. I would like you to read the book, but here is, by the way, John Doerr talking about OKR. Let me roll this very amazing video where John Doerr, who is in front of your screen, talks about how OKR has helped Google. He talks about a case study of Google. But before I go into this particular video, anybody knows who is the CEO of Google? Of course, many of you would know, but who is the CEO of Google?
Sundar Pichai.
Absolutely, Sandeep, Sundar Pichai. So can anyone tell me which is the project Sundar Pichai was working on, which took him to the CEO's role? What was that project that was the most critical project that, because
Android.
a lot of brilliant people at Google. No, not Android. No, it was Chrome. Absolutely, Michael and Pilantha. It was Chrome. So Chrome was the project that he was working on. And in the Chrome project, it was a very difficult project, by the way, because you are coming up with a product which has intense competition from Microsoft already, and Mozilla from Firefox, and Safari of Apple. And today, the most used web browser on the world is Chrome. And he created that from zero, initially with the search bar, which was available, the Chrome add-on. So in this particular case, he talks about how Sundar Pichai used OKR in his Chrome project to turn around the story. Would you be interested in understanding how Google adopts the philosophy of objectives and key results? Yes, no? Yeah? Okay, lovely. So all these videos which I have shown over the last 5 sessions to you have been hand-picked and curated. I put a lot of effort in picking the exact slide from which I should use these videos. These are not full-length videos, which are typically 18 minutes. So I've taken that particular portion, but that should not devolve you from watching the video in its entirety. So please do so. Here's a video for all of you. Hold on for a moment. Just got stuck, unfortunately. Give me a moment, team. Let me just check this one. Oh. A single minute. I'll just pull that video. It's a very good video. In the interim, somebody can just Google that book out, measure what matters, and put this up on our chat and maybe on WhatsApp group as well. And I'm sincerely hoping that while that person is doing that effort, last time it was Michael who was putting that effort, others are also taking a note and hopefully picking the book. Knowing about a book is as good or as bad as knowing and not reading. So to really action that particular thing in its earnest, only then it makes a lot of sense. So while my video is kind of coming up, if anybody of you has a question for me, any observation on OKR, business model canvas, and the 3 horizons of strategy or 3 horizons of planning?
On this business canvas is the first step for doing the strategy, business strategy.
I would not, Sandeep, say that it's the first step. First step typically would be external analysis.
Yeah, external because usually we have been given books during the time of strategy. This time in value proposition it was given. So we generated the ideas, but we were asked to present in the business canvas. This same canvas, this same book. Like who is the customer?
Yeah, I would not say it's not the starting point, it's the ending point.
Yeah, ending point. Whatever.
It's a good way to represent your idea.
Yeah, because in strategy you have got 2-3 days. So 2 days you generate the ideas, and finally when you present, that's a outcome has to be presented to stakeholders in this fashion in the business business canvas. That's what we. It's just a concept.
Yeah. Yeah, I would limit it to that. Absolutely. I would limit it to that. Nothing else. It's certainly not more than that. It would only be that particular aspect of way of representing it. Nothing beyond that. Definitely. Unfortunately, I'm not able to fetch that video, but if you give me a minute's time, I should be able to, because I would still want you to see how Sundar Pichai went about using OKR in a very simple, elegant fashion. Any other questions? Sandeep, does it address your question, by the way?
Dr.
Sharad, you have a question for me?
Yeah. So this OKR means objective KPIs, and what does the R stand for?
Result. It's not KPI, no. OKR stands for objective and key result. So objective means your goal, and the key result means what are the things that will ascertain and check if you are marching towards your goal. That's the meaning of KR, key results areas. It comes from MBO. MBO stands for management by objective. Management by objective means that instead of managing things in a very ad hoc manner, how do you ensure that you are sort of streamlining yourself in the right way, in the right approach? So that is what the key results typically talks about. Okay. So would it be okay if I send you the link of this video from YouTube and you would be able to play this video at your end? Will that be fine by you, team? That will save us some time also. Will that be okay with you? Yeah, it's a good video. It's a fantastic video. So that being the case, maybe any one of you can do that. Michael, please go to YouTube and fetch TED Talk by John Doerr. And please paste that link to our chat here. TED Talk by John Doerr. Johndoerr. I'll also do so. My system is a bit misbehaving today, so I just want to not lose time. That's the only thing. It's a very good TED Talk by John Doerr, where he talks about a lot of interesting cases, but one in particular which is impressive is yeah.
So is it
Absolutely,
why?
Michael. Thanks a lot, Michael. I appreciate that.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah, so Michael has pasted that.
Why the secret to success is setting the right goals?
Absolutely correct.
Yeah, right.
So don't worry, and Michael, the exact sequence, because I think the video as such is pretty decent. So you can give it a shot. Somewhere in the middle it comes, but the video is very good. For the uninitiated, this is a good video to watch end to end. Okay, so to wrap it up all, I'll send the link to you nonetheless. So what I have done for your consumption is I have compressed the entire course into a mind map. So if you really have to remember this course that you took with me, all you need to remember is this one single mind map. So I would strongly recommend all of you to take a photograph of this mind map and take a print of it. I'll anyways email this presentation to you tonight, but this is one slide summary of the entire course. The 5 stages of inspire, empathize, and define. Inspire, empathize, and define, you know, ideate, prototype, and test, and scale. And I've shared all the models with you. Then we talk about what is design thinking, when is it most, how to be a design thinker, and some of the books. These are all the books and these books: business model generation, art of innovation, sprint. So sprint talks about how Google adopts design thinking. Creative confidence talks about how IDEO and Stanford adopts design thinking. Art of innovation, business model generation, change by design of IDEO, and of course design your thinking. These are the 6 books which are highly recommended. Plus these are all the online links. IDEO University has a whole range of very interesting articles, videos available on design thinking. Creative confidence book, very beautiful TED talk by Tim Brown. The case study document by design thinking IDEO, which talks about a whole range of case studies that companies have used to embrace design thinking. And finally the design kit. Design kit has a bunch of very interesting tools. There are at least 50 tools of design thinking which are available on this design kit. 50 tools, 50. What I've introduced to you is just about 20 tools. There are 30 more that you can possibly get your hands to and hopefully practice those. So with that, we come to a closure of our program on design thinking, team. So I'll email this short presentation to all of you without fail. But what I would strongly recommend you to do is to come back to me. Oh, yeah, absolutely, Pinani. They're all free. Most good things in the world are free. Okay. Except that many times we just do not value it, especially when it is free. Okay. So I hope you value it over the next 10 days as you have this occasion to talk to me, solicit inputs from me, and take advice about your project. Now we have time with us. Yes, Michael, we'll be starting the 3rd cohort anytime soon. So I'll be making the announcements once I have a discussion with team. we'll be starting the third cohort very soon, Michael. Thanks for the curiosity. Now, what I would request each one of you to do is to write down 2 things which you have learned from this entire program on design thinking and 1 question. The next 2 hours I would be spending talking to all of you, okay, one-on-one, understanding what you have learned and asking and addressing your questions. So take your time, take a piece of paper or your notebook and write 2 major takeaways that you had from the entire program and 1 specific question that you have for me which you would like me to address. Okay, switch on your cameras. I'll also switch on my camera so that at least for one last time today we can see each other face to face, and then we will get into our discussion mode. Okay, so I'll give you 2 minutes and I'll call out the names one by one, which you can then talk about your learnings and your insights from the entire session, team. Okay, so please write it down. Don't make it an extempore. It's best that you write it down. Or don't write anything on the chat, team. You have to just write it down in your private notebook or wherever, and then speak it to me. That's more important. So I sincerely hope that you're ready now. So you can take either group mentoring slots or you can take personal mentoring slots, but that is completely up to your discretion. I would definitely want you to take up something. That's more important. The modalities of how exactly you do it is completely left to you. It's absolutely fine by me. Okay, having said that, let me switch on my camera and call out the individuals. 2 takeaways, team, and 1 question for me. So let us go in the reverse order today. Let's start with Vikram. Vikram, go ahead, please. Unmute yourself and please tell your key takeaway and the 2 questions that you would have for me. 1 question and 2 takeaways. Go ahead, Vikram. I hope you're around, Vikram. No, it seems we are missing out on Vikram. Let's go to Uday. Uday, are you around? Uday seems to be missing as well. Okay, we'll come back. Shivani?
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay. So there are a lot of things that we learned, but what I can sum up, if I want to sum up, I would say that it is we got to learn all the various stages, and best is, if I want to sum it up, I can say that it is a solution based approach. We try to get to a solution, and then various steps that we learned. How do we do um, challenges, assumptions, then ideation. So I would say that this is a new concept that we've learned, and probably once we deep dive more into it, try to bring it to work in our day-to-day approach, it will be quite beneficial with the kind of flow that you've taught us to do it. So I mean, that's how I feel. about the whole thing, though I missed 2 sessions, but then I had covered up because of the videos that were provided. So I think the overall approach learning, I cannot say that, okay, in particular, I liked, how to do ideation trigger or how to do the challenges. But if I sit back and look at the whole flow, then I think, yes, it's something enriching that I've learned and I can bring it to work at my workplace.
Okay, very good, Shivani. Any questions for me or for the fellow participants that you have?
Yeah. So the last session that we were doing, wherein we were narrowing down our problems, trying to rate them on a scale of 1 to 5, zero it down. So somehow we had a lot of challenges, and that is why at the beginning of the session today I requested you that if all of us can collectively come to you and do our discussion once again, because as someone I there was an audio issue, I could not gather who was the one who was talking, one of our colleague from this group. Initially, when you gave the presentation and everything, it was for the interns when you're going to the to any institution or
Sandeep.
okay. So so Sandeep, as you rightly said, we were also, sir, trying to refer to the presentation that you shared with us, but there it is more like interns who are coming to a organization. But when we look at it from our perspective, then there were certain clashes or disconnect that we thought. So that was the reason I was wanting that we, in specific to our topic that we've taken, we want to have a discussion with you one to one on that, so that the questions or the
Very much.
contradiction that is coming to our mind, we can get it addressed, and then probably I would be in a better position to say, yes, this is what I finally learned and I'm thorough with it. So right now there are a lot of things which are
Absolutely.
floating. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. I think over the next 1 week you can take the time.
Sure,
But
sir.
the only thing which I would offer is that in any context, it always helps you to develop a tremendous amount of empathy.
Right.
We often uh, underestimate the power of empathy, power of listening. So all the techniques, rasa technique, listening positions, emotional intelligence that we spoke about, if you can bring that to bearing in your life and work, I think you'll be a far better problem solver. So that's something that
Sure.
has helped me enormously, because I often have very difficult clients to manage and a very difficult situation that I'll be put into. And if you can develop that empathy naturally, it makes into a win-win situation.
So actually, I was trying to flip over my notes when you said, what did you like the most? Two things. So when I was trying to read the points that I made, I think everything is very, very important and everything is value adding. So I cannot say that I only like this and not the other one. So that is what is my takeaway.
Glad. Thanks for joining in. I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah.
Thank you
Over
so
to you.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's go to Sharad.
Good afternoon, everyone, and Dr. Pawan. So some of the learnings I had from this thing is I have been always thinking about the emotional intelligence and empathy, but I think I just read and left it. But I think after this course, I am really serious about it, and I think, and I always believe that is the area where I need to improve upon. And then I'm trying to put that into my work and whatever relationship I have. So empathy and the emotional intelligence part of the thing, and then also how to apply that into the any of your problem solving approach. So that is one of the learning I have. Second would be the overall idea of innovation. I always felt I'm more of the logical, technical, and then whenever it comes to creativity or whenever it comes to idea generation, I always used to take the backseat. But now with this course, I think it is not that difficult to generate ideas, not that difficult to have the creative solution. I think with the methodological approach, what you taught or what this design approach talk about, it is you can generate the new ideas and solve the problem for the customer and for your company. So I think these are the two learnings I feel I have from this course, which are very important for me.
Fantastic. Fantastic, Sharad. Any questions for me?
Yeah, one question, and I think I joined this course little late. I think almost second week, so was not able to give a thought on the project. But now with this thing, I think one of the areas which is sort of under research and not much projects or thoughts on is the how to manage your mid career. And then many of us feel lost in the mid career time. We do pretty well in your early days, and then we feel lost. So I am planning to do one project, maybe with some of the colleagues on the how to manage your mid-career, maybe we'll give the design thinking approach to that. And probably I would need your help on that. So probably I will reach out to you separately after this project. So, and then it can be shared to the entire group to how to navigate through the mid-career crisis sort of thing.
Yeah, I think many people will benefit from it.
Yeah.
Isn't it? A lot of the people.
Yeah, I will reach out to Dr. Pawan on that. I have prepared
Key,
the design brief on that and just trying to give a shape, and probably reach out and do some research and talk to a lot more colleagues on that, what people do and who did it well, so that a lot of people get benefit out of that. I'm planning to do that project with you.
Oh, that's a fantastic thing. Let's do that. And let's not limit it to this particular course.
Yeah.
Because this is it's a topic which is applicable to a lot of people. And if you can offer some insight, I think many people will benefit from it. Good job, Sharad. Appreciate it. And thanks for joining in, even though you were late by a week, but I'm really happy that you took the opportunity and very grateful to you.
Yeah.
Sharad.
Thank you, Doctor. And I'm also pretty happy and pretty learned after this course. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Glad you could join in. Okay, let's go to Sandeep N. Yes, Sandeep. Sandeep N. Your 2 takeaways and your 1 question for me. You already had a question before, but if you have something else this time.
First of all, a big thank you.
Yes.
See, you said
thank you for joining in.
2 key takeaways. So emphasis is on key. The key is, it was my second exposure to a design thinking workshop. But what I found was this model which you have propagated in your book and you have taken us through in this course as well, is very, very pragmatic. And what I found was very interesting, that it brings a realism when you impose a constraint. That is the real trigger for creativity in action. Otherwise, creativity per se is a pretty woolly-headed. We what we are doing, we do not know. So this imposition of constraint on the problem statement will really trigger creativity in action. The second one was, again, which is very eye-opening for me personally, that we can find fresh ideas and new thinking only at the intersection of disciplines. So this I had vaguely in my mind, but got more focused and crystal clear during the course, especially in the last 2 sessions. Regarding the questions, I had opened the session with the questions. So maybe something else comes up, I'll definitely bother you. I hope I have that liberty.
Absolutely, you do.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for joining in. Thank you. By the way, I would like you to see if you can pick this book up. I was reading this book recently that's called Range by David Epstein. Range is the book.
It's
a
on
brilliant
my
book.
Tomorrow I'll go and grab it.
Yeah, it's a fantastic book. I just finished reading it. And this book talks about that future belongs to when this might tangentially answer Sharad's question also about the midlife crisis. It's not mid-career crisis alone. It can be also midlife crisis, even if career is an inception. And what David Epstein, with a tremendous amount of research, says is that the future belongs to people who have a very wide range. Range is important, not depth.
Yeah.
The future doesn't belong to specialist. It doesn't even belong to generalist, so to say, but it belongs to people who are pi. Pi means they have 2 or more than 2 areas of reasonably good understanding, but their perspective is so wide that they are able to connect their dots very seamlessly. So to Sandeep's point on intersection of discipline, there is a very brilliant book that's called The Medici Effect by Frank Johansson. Sandeep, you want to pick that up? Where he goes to Italy, Florence of the 16th century, and he starts with Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci.
Okay.
And he says that what led to the Renaissance in Florence. Florence is a small part of Italy, which itself is such a small country in Europe. Why Italy? Why Florence? Why not Germany? Why not Austria? Why not Switzerland? Why not UK? Why Italy and Florence? And he said that the reason it all happened in Italy Galileo was from Italy. A lot of other people were from Italy, actually. It happened in Italy is because of enormous amount of funding. So there was a family called Medici family, which started giving money to people to pursue their hobbies. So you are an artist, you are a scientist, a craftsman, a woodwork, etc., goldsmith, ironsmith. And when all these faculties collide with each other, almost instantly, is when these sparks starts to fly. There is another book by Stephen Johnson called Where Good Ideas Come From, and he goes back to UK, and he says that from Isaac Newton all the way to Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin was again a British. Isaac Newton was a British, and a huge number of people from Cambridge University, where some of the most amazing research on DNA. So these Crick and Watson were Britishers who came up with a helical structure. He says that why so much of invention happened in UK, and he reduces it down to tea houses. So UK moved from drinking liquor to drinking tea in the 17th century. And when you drink tea, you gather in a porch, you kind of assemble yourself. So these tea houses were the social medias and the TED talks of the erstwhile era. So going forward also, there is a whole premise that if you really want to be creative, you should work out of a co-working space, not from your home, not from your office, from a co-working space. Because in your office, you are in a familiar territory. In your home, you are all by yourself. But in a co-working space like a WeWork or a 91 Springboard or a Beehive or any of those so many co-working spaces which are coming up, you are always surrounded by strangers. You can strike some very serendipitous connections with people. So I think if you're really interested, both Sharad and Sandeep, to explore the intersection of disciplines, one is read voraciously so that you develop that perspective, vocabulary. And second is try to experiment with your daily habits. Daily habits including where you work from, whom you work with, what do you talk to, who are your friends to socialize with. So these things I try and do. I used to work from a co-working space. I actually wrote my entire book sitting in a co-working space, 91 Springboard, and I acknowledge that in my book. I don't think I would have done even half as good job if I would have been sitting at the comfort of my home. When I was at IIM Bangalore, I sat in the library. For 5 years, I sat in the library. We all had our offices, but I never chose to office. I always sat in the library because in the library you bump into so many different type of people that your perspective can change, which will never happen in the comfort of your office space. So maybe some of these things can be, yeah, useful. No, but glad both of you and others as well you can join. So thank you so much, Sandeep. And let's go to Sandeep Gandhi now.
Yeah, Dr. Pawan, just a follow-up question to you, what you said. Now this innovation are, I feel a lot of coming from the US than Italy and UK now. If you talk current is what has changed
right.
over the last probably century?
US policies. In the last 1 century, what really changed was the Second World War. It's the Second World War that gave America what America is today. Soon after the Second World War, when America had this swath of land and very few people, we had this baby booming time. And America opened its gates to the world population, especially universities. And all these Indians who would then go to America, because Silicon Valley came only in 1990s. There was not much of it. But in 60s, 70s, and 80s, universities opened up their doors and allowed students from across the world to come and study in the US. People can buy property in US. Okay, people can join organization in US. Today, you would hardly find even 1% non-Indians in our IITs. If you go to any IIT, any IIM, you would not even have 1% of the students who are non-Indians, not even 1%. That is a stark contrast. So I think open policy that Americans had made the entire difference. And European countries, because of language barriers, now you can't go to Germany and still work in English. It's almost next to impossible. French people need French language. So because of language barriers and geographical proximity, some of these things really changed. So if India has to really become the melting pot of innovation and creativity, we need to allow a lot of people from outside of India to come and study, if not settle in India, at least study in India. We should open that up. So that's how it should happen. That's my view, Sharad. That's why America was not so amazing 75 years back. Because Second World War, that really changed everything in America.
Yeah, got it. Thanks,
okay.
Dr. Pawan. Yeah.
Let me quickly go to Sandeep Gandhi. Good question. Thank you.
Hi, Pawan.
Yes, Sandeep.
So,
Hi.
in the first
Good to see
what
you.
I liked about you, your book is very good because it's very informative on that front, and a lot of concepts has been written. I have read the books of design thinking by earlier by Tim Brown. Also have read it, but the details of what you have written it over there is very good, very elaborately it has been given. This one, and second one I liked
Thank
about it
you.
was SCQA is also one part which we have been using it in Dana, but I have been not using it in innovation. So I thought let's use it that one. And the third one is empathy map. These are the three things which I think I can take it, because SCQA, what you use it over here, what we use it in Dana is background issue, situation, and what is here going forward. So in the same fashion, we need to communicate. Let's say inspired communication, we need to write it to a lot of people. So this is the three things what I liked about this, and the session was very good. A lot of information was there, a lot of efforts
so much
to collect a lot of videos and everything. This one, I think I got no questions on that one because I think most of the questions has been answered pretty well. So thanks. That's all. So one-to-one session.
Thank you, Sandeep, for joining in.
We'll be having it in this week. So I'll get some information from in that session. It's been very hectic for us.
Sure, Sandeep. Thank you so much.
Because we
I understand.
Have that Oxford learning, and the evening we used to have your this session. So it was whole day we used to get involved. So anyway, this is good one. It's a very good learning. I could be able to get from this design thinking. So look forward of
thank you, Sandeep,
with you on this lot of projects at Spicer. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, looking forward to Sandeep. Thank you. Let's go to Raja. Go ahead, Raja.
Yeah, I'll just start. Yeah. Okay, so I think there are many things. Picking up two is very difficult, but I realized in the whole process that this whole thing about creativity and creative problem solving is as you have rightly pointed out, tool set, mindset, and skill set. So it's like it's a whole range. Earlier, like in organizations, you would have DMAC and all the Six Sigma methods and all that thing, which is like looking at things very analytically and only from one perspective. And let me say it was very dry. If you have to do things, you pick up the problem itself in a way in which you will say that if DMAC can be applied, then only you take that problem. But the problems are always very complicated wherever you are working, and you will say, okay, let me just take this portion of the problem and then DMAC can be used for that. But here is a tool which really look at, as you rightly said, human-centered problems, where there are humans, there is interaction of human and systems and processes, and that's what the real world is all about, right? So I think it's a very real method. It's a touch and feel method, and I just got that real good hang of I'm quite excited about the fact that there is now a technique which really help you deal with real issues, essentially. So that way it doesn't look like a fad, at least as of now. Second, two things. I also realized for myself that when you're doing the convergence and divergence method through the whole technique, then one has a propensity for one over the other. Usually, I have seen that also, that people who are good at convergence are not as adept at divergence, etc. So I am just sort of but the other good part is that the technique and the tools are there to help you. So you cover up for it, but there is a inclination towards one over the other, let's put it this way. So I sort of realized for myself that I have an inclination towards one, and that by having a larger group of people working, whenever, I mean, not in this project, but otherwise, you should also constitute the project in a way where you have a good mix of both, so that we all help each other in solving those issues. I also liked the analogous design part. It was really, fantastic tool to look outside your function, to look outside your industry and go and learn from others. And for your micro problem, maybe there is some solution which is not in your industry, which is there outside. So it's very, very insightful that way. My questions are two, actually. I have one is related to this familiarity. Basically, how much familiarity of a subject, like if I'm in HR and I'm doing a project in my department, or if you are a technical person who is trying to solve a technical kind of an issue. Do you think that if design thinking is done by a consultant from outside, that brings much more variety of solutions than you solving your own problem in your own group? Is a question. What is more advisable? What gives you more richer context? Because at the end of the day, you restrict yourself if you're solving a problem for your own function and you're doing yourself. There will be biases, there will be a lot of things that you are sort of ignoring and not looking at. A lot of things you eliminate, saying that maybe this is not feasible, this is not viable, simply because you are familiar with it and you have been beaten up so many times in that area that you are not very hopeful, while an outsider can look at it with much more fresh perspective. So my question is it done better by an outside consultant, or is it done well by people who are solving their own issues?
Yeah, so it's a good question, Raja. So my view would be that an outside consultant is only as good as the ability of the person to nudge your thinking. If he or she is only bringing the expertise of design thinking, then the value add is minimal. If the
Right.
person is bringing the perspective from several other industries where he or she has worked, the so-called analogous empathy, that he
Right.
can say, okay, I worked in my last client and this is how they solved this particular problem. Why don't you look at it? Only then he or she is able to bring that knowledge. Otherwise, this is superfluous. The
Right.
act of design thinking is not the act of disciplined thinking. It is the
Right.
act of divergent thinking.
Hmm.
And in the substitute of that person, you can organically build variety. So you can organically involve. I remember doing a design thinking workshop for Biocon 2 years back. And the head of branded formulations business insisted that it was the oncologist's team. Can you believe it? That he insisted that in the room we should have cancer survivors. Can you believe that? The moment he says we should have cancer survivors in the room, the whole sort of just a moment. The whole complexion of the discussion changes as a result of that. And that takes audacity. So just because the person is from outside, that does not mean the person brings an external perspective. That's not natural.
Got it. Yeah. And this, one more question I have was, you have done it in so many organizations by now. What do you think that organizations are making it like any other process and making it a boring routine, which they are just sort of throwing out on people? Is it reaching that kind of a state, or they are genuinely using it as a creative process? What is your feel?
So the thing is, we are not there yet. Neither we are there making it routinized, nor we are making it broad-based. We are not there yet, thankfully. But the thing is that what we have seen in organizations like Tata Group, only yesterday I was doing a program with Tata Group as a part of their entire journey of managing innovation. And that's where I realized that these people have really gone ahead and tried to bring the methods of ideation institutionalize. They don't institutionalize end-to-end design thinking process. They institutionalize empathy. ideation, prototyping, scale, pieces of that. And that's it. That needs to be done. Nothing beyond that. Only pieces have to be, not the entirety. There will be too much otherwise.
Sure. Yep. Thanks a lot. I think it was absolutely a wonderful journey. I think it was very new and different, refreshing, and it really is extremely practical and helpful.
Thank you so much, Raja. All the best.
Last question is this last piece, the scale piece, also has to be part of the project submission?
If you can incorporate at least one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can incorporate.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Let's go to Priya.
Yeah. Hi. Good afternoon, Dr. Sunil.
Hi.
I
Hi.
hope
Hi,
I'm
Priya. Can't see
audible.
you though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
I
can see you
have.
now. Yes.
Okay.
I can
All
see you
right.
now.
All right. So for me, if I have to talk about two major takeaways, the first one, would be um, the entire approach of design thinking. How it is, the entire approach helps to like open up your thought process beyond the regular normal thought process that you might have, and building the right mindset, I believe is very important, is what I've realized, when I'm going through this entire activity. Having an open mind to think beyond what is the traditional way to go for anything. I think that helps to understand the concepts better, as well as all the examples that you have put. I really appreciate all the videos and all, because they've tremendously helped me in understanding the concepts even better. For me, I'm very visual as a learner, and all these videos have been a great help, along with everything that you provided in terms of the material, the slides. So I'm definitely much more clearer about the concepts of design thinking. I had tried reading about it before, but where reading, honestly, for me, when it comes to nonfiction, is a very dry area. I am a reader, but I read fiction. So when it comes to nonfiction, it takes its own sweet time. So that when I did try reading it, it wasn't as clear as when I went through this entire journey of 5 days that we've covered, and we've learned so many things. So that really helped. The other thing that I really liked is the fact that we did a project, and it was not just learning or taking in, but also applying it. So, learning by doing things, because that definitely, again, about a certain concepts, but you start questioning those things when you actually do it. And that is something that I really liked, that we actually did the entire thing, and piece by piece, where we learned about something and then we implemented it. So I really like that entire journey of doing the project while learning. I think it definitely helped cement those concepts better in my head. So thank you for that. um when it comes to the question, my question is kind of similar to what Raja asked you just now. It's like, in your experience, you have done the design thinking workshops with multiple organizations. How has your experience been, say, if there is a very traditional organization um, who does not want to just implement or say that we are a design thinking company now, or we use design thinking, but there is a resistance to it? Have you worked with such companies that say that this is something that is not our company culture value, and how have you gone about this entire thing?
It's a good question. So yes, with a whole host of companies, including the ones which don't want to embrace it, the best part is don't call it design thinking.
Mhm.
Don't use the word design thinking. Just use the word creativity or problem solving. Because the moment you use the word design thinking, automatically people start assuming that it is for designers or it is something hi-fi. Use simple terms that this is about creative problem solving. The moment they get into it and they start developing confidence, then you can disclose to them that, hey, by the way, what you have been going through is nothing but design thinking. That is how you have to slowly nudge them into thinking differently. And that is again comes through empathy. Remember one thing, team, always remember this thing, and this is for all of you, that the hero in the room is your audience and not you. You're not the hero in the room. Your audience is the hero in the room. So you don't want to demonstrate what you know and what all you know about design thinking. You have to help them achieve their objective. Design thinking is just one way. It's not the best way or the only way that you know. So you need to know a whole range of methods, and you can slowly nudge them into thinking that can you improve as a result of it. So that is how you'll be tactical about it.
Right. That's a really valuable input. I think, yeah, I appreciate that, and thank you very much for this entire session. I really appreciate learning so many things from you, and I look forward to the session, a one-on-one session with you as well, to learn even more. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for joining and appreciate that. Take care.
Thank you.
Take
Yeah.
care. Let's go to Pilantha. Thank you, Priya.
Yes, Dr. Pavan. So I have few learnings which I got from the session. First is the analogy design, which was very interesting for me, and it really helped us to generate more ideas and look beyond our domain. So it was very interesting when we did that particular session. And the main learning is like how
Pilantha,
to. Yes.
would you mind switching on your camera if that is okay by you?
Uh, Dr. Pavan, I'm using a hotspot. There's no power in my place, so that's why I didn't turn on my video.
Oh, I see. That's
Okay.
carry on.
And next is the empathy mapping and applying it in a different approach. And it was very interesting for me, when I thought like how it can be engineered into different mappings like stakeholder, customer, and problem exploration. It was very interesting, and all your videos and the learning materials you shared was very useful, and especially the book which you sent us. Literally every day I open it at least once in a day to refer it. So these are my learnings, Pavan. And with the question, I don't have any question in my mind.
Okay. Do read the book.
Yeah.
That's my request to you.
Sure, Dr. Pavan. Thank you.
All right. Glad to have you, Pilantha. I appreciate that. Appreciate this so much. Okay. Let's go to Panini.
Hi, Dr. Pavan. I'm just trying to switch on the video.
Sure.
Hi. So I think from a takeaway perspective, two things. One is the process, methods, and tools to apply a concept into very definitive approach to applying the concept. So I really like that. It's very structured. And also, you peppered it with very specific books and resources that you could read. I know the difficulty of searching for good books, and it's like you always end up with 9 average books before you hit the 10th grade book. So I really like the fact that you made it so simple, just gave us the books. Here is what you need to read for this topic. So I think those were my 2 key takeaways. And from a question perspective, I wanted to ask you that so if design thinking has to be applied as a leader, what are the top attitudinal traits a leader should possess to encourage team towards design thinking? I have some idea of it. It could be empathy and things like that, but I just wanted to hear from you. And the second is at an organization level, what should be the organizational culture to promote design thinking or creative ideation?
It's a good question. I think both the questions are fantastic. Let me take the first question first. So 3 things that a leader needs to embrace. One is systems thinking or the big picture thinking. If you're looking at a local optima, can I ensure that I'm looking at a global optima? That's the first thing. Second thing you heard very rightly said is empathy, listening skills. Okay, how do you empathize with people and how do you come across as emotionally intelligent? And third is inspiration. A lot of companies that I have been to, a lot of companies where I've done design thinking workshops, etc. Leaders in many such companies fail to set an objective of design thinking. They say that, okay, let's learn design thinking. Instead of saying, let's learn design thinking, they need to understand that why learn design thinking? What's the big picture? What's the objective that you want to achieve? So if you don't set an objective which is you to inspire people, you don't have a big picture thinking yourself, and if you don't demonstrate empathy, you as a leader would fail to establish a culture or a climate of design thinking. In terms of the organization, I think I can never ever overemphasize on the importance of diversity. Unfortunately, our Indian organizations do not exhibit the kind of diversity that is required to be really world class in terms of creativity. We still have a lot of people who are from same region, like South Indian companies would predominantly hire South Indian talent. Companies still have very few female representatives. We hardly have people from across the country, from across industries, disciplines, domains. Manufacturing companies will still predominantly have engineers. So I think we are systematically cutting down diversity, and as a result, we are mistaking efficiency for effectiveness. So I think we need to embrace diversity, and that starts with the HR policies of the companies. So if HR policies can ensure that we have adequate diversity, only then we can have creativity. That's my view. Because both are amazing questions. I'm glad you asked. And that's why I insist that we ask questions, because it's for all of us to learn. Most importantly, for me to learn. Many times I would have missed out on these things, but I'm so grateful to you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Any other question, Penani, for me?
No,
Okay.
doctor, thank
All
you very
right.
much.
Thank you. Now let's go to Nana.
Yeah. So Dr. Pawan, can I
Take
ask
care.
one more just follow-up question on this?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So typically on the diversity
Yes,
front,
please,
I
Sharad.
think the diversity front, the policymaker or the senior leader in the company are probably are in their late 50s or something, which I believe in most of the companies. Maybe there are exceptions, but they don't value this thing. And they are in the position of power, and they are the one who take the decision. Especially I'm talking about, because I had a huge experience in manufacturing industry. I have worked throughout my career, where we see the people sitting on the top, they prefer engineer, and then male, they feel, and they don't want it to move away from there. And probably they are also looking at horizon one. So how to tackle this problem? And I think where to tap into it?
It's a very genuine question, I would say that. And what I have tried to do in the manufacturing clientele is to sensitize the leadership team. Whenever we do design thinking workshop, we always do it top down. We never do it bottoms up. There's no point in boiling the ocean if the top is sealed. So we always start from the top and sensitizing the people and giving them a lot of anecdotal evidences, like Bosch. Bosch is a manufacturing company. And in Bosch, I have seen a lot of very creative HR practices in terms of infusing diversity. Similarly, Titan is a manufacturing company where I've seen a lot of diversity coming in. Anand Group is again an organization where they have introduced a lot of diversity in terms of people coming from various parts of the country, etc. So by giving them examples of Indian companies, relevant companies, and sensitizing them with a lot of research and anecdotal evidences, this is a recipe for them to change their mind. You can't give them example of Google and Amazon and Apple. They'll simply say, "Wahan kaam karta hai, yahan kaam nahi karta hai." It doesn't work here; it works only there. So I think we have to be sensitive about the kind of examples that we give them. It's a tough thing. I'm not saying it is easy, but it is important. Otherwise, we'll just decay with time. So that's my view, Sharad. All right. So let's go to, thank you. Let's go to Nana very quickly. Nana, your takeaways.
Sorry.
Nana, you're
Forgot
out.
to miss. Yeah. Good afternoon, Pawan. I feel that entire session was good. I felt that it's like a journey of taking the challenge to and taking it to the solution level. My takeaway from this is first thing is the book is very good. Though I finished only 5 chapters, I'm about to read it from 6 to 8. These 3 are pending, but till 5th chapters, the book is entirely interesting. The detailed work is done is amazing, and surely I'll complete the book.
Thank you.
Second thing is I like the
Thank you so much.
SCQA model, which helps us narrate our idea in a very fantastic way. It's like taking a proposal to your stakeholders, putting it to your stakeholders, which is amazing. I liked it. And second thing is, I also liked uh, the horizon. We have to think of every next step, and this could be done simultaneously. This is a very good point in that, which we should focus on. What we normally do is we try to end up one thing and then take over the next thing. We go sequential, but taking this simultaneously is really a challenge, and I'll definitely look into that. It's not a question, but just a query. I like that business model canvas also very much. But just a query, that can this business model canvas can be used by a small startups to put up that projects?
That's typically used by them, Nana. They are the biggest beneficiary because for the startup, optimizing cost and understanding the revenue flow is very important for their survival. In large companies, you are okay because you have a buffer, but in startups, you don't typically have the buffer. So you have to convince the investors, convince the customers about the utility of your company. The BMC can be very, very useful. So a lot of them, and nowadays it has become a staple slide. If you look at any pitch deck, this BMC will be a staple slide in that particular deck. So it's very useful for upstarts.
Thank you, Pawan. No other questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nana. Thank you so much for joining in. Let's go to Michael.
Hey Pavan, hi.
Go ahead,
Thanks for
Michael.
the Pavan. Am I clear?
Hi.
Am I audible?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. So Pavan, first of all, thanks for the your patience in terms of reviewing everything and sharing feedback. And I recollect two things which I wanted to share and relate to relate to my takeaways. So the first thing is that my dad would always tell me that you get a seat at the table. You get a, so you said that you get a seat at the table, but because of your expertise, your audience connects with you and empathizes with, because of empathy, right? My dad used to say that you get to enter the hall, the dance hall, but it's how you perform that enthralls your audience. So I was connecting with that, and I was telling my parents about this course that I was doing, and my dad said, there's so much of talent in all of us, and apart from learning this course, what else are you doing to apply this course? And I was just talking to him about how we're applying this at a home for children, where now we're raising funds for the children's home. It's an NGO, and how we're applying design thinking to 8 or 9 of those individuals who don't know anything about design thinking. I mean, they just need funds for the children's home. But the way the course has opened up my mind is everything that I'm interacting with them, I'm questioning, and it's so humbling to know that while I'm learning, they're also learning. And we've actually gone ahead, we've approached a corporate for the CSR funds, and it's all thanks to this course. Because as we were putting the questions together, we did a mind mapping. We understood how we needed to get few people together in the missing pieces. And I can't take the audience time, but that is something that I realize my talent of networking is something that I can apply to even get people together and for a common cause. And while it may not be directly linked to design thinking, definitely the need to apply design thinking is there everywhere. And we get a moment to interact with so many people and showcase our talent every day, right? But if we empathize with our audience, and we can actually make a difference. So that's something that I wanted to share. That's something that the course has really made an impact on, hopefully, to the lives of those children. The second thing is, you said you get paid for your depth but promoted for your breadth. Now initially I was a little bit scared if I tell my tell my boss about I'm doing design thinking, because unlike many on the program, I've self-funded. So I said, I'm not sure if he'll self-doubt that kind of how impactful it will be for Wipro. But in somewhere in the middle of the course, I told him that I will have to do focused interviews and get a little bit more perspective. he was so open to it. He said, just go out for it, and go out for it and give it your best, and whatever grade you get, it doesn't matter, but teach us what you're learning. And it became more exciting because I was more open, that I expressed that fear of mine. And I think so it's all about the fear sometimes. So the big question I have to you, Pawan, is now IIM Bangalore has this web series, right? This webinar series, and my boss and I actually are co-hosting a webinar on knowledge management. Now, do you think we should put in concepts of? You've seen the project work that I've done. You think that'll interest the audience? It's something that it's a big risk, right? But do you think because most of the people who I've shown the project brief to, they're like, everybody says knowledge management is intuitive, but the kind of way, the personas that you've built, the way you've simplified it, you've presented the design, it really makes a big difference. And I think so you should bring in that element in the webinar, because a lot of people don't know design thinking and in knowledge management terms. So but do you think it's a risk element, because it's a yeah, it'll be good. I'll definitely count on you, because yeah, because I'll count on you. Then I'll just show you the final presentation, and if it makes sense, you should give your guidance.
Yeah, we'll be happy to help you, Michael. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah.
It'll be a good combination.
So very happy to take this course. And yeah, like one of our friends said, I was traveling by train from Bangalore to Mangalore, and in the train I had a copy of the book. So I was reading the book on in the train, and many people asked me, what is this you're reading? And they were quite keen to look at the cover, and just design thinking itself got many people wondering, like, what is this, right? So it actually started a good conversation with a few people, and I'm glad that this will connect to many practical things in going forward. Thank you, Pawan.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that highly. Let's go to Manoj. I hope Manoj is around.
I'm here. Am I audible?
Go ahead, Manoj.
Dr. Soni, thank you so much for a well put together book. I really like your writing style. It makes it very easy to read.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
So I curate my takeaways.
I can't hear you. Yeah.
Am I not audible?
Yeah.
How about now?
Yeah.
I'm audible now?
Yes.
Great. So I typically
Go ahead, I can.
So I typically curate my takeaways on the basis of three things. How will I go ahead and apply what I've learned? How I've invested my time and energy and effort for the last few days or weeks into how it is going to change me cognitively, effectively, and behaviorally. So on that basis, there are a couple of things that I'm going to continue working on over the next few weeks, months, and perhaps years when it comes to the takeaways from this design thinking program. So like Michael before me, I'm also self-sponsored, that I chose to invest my time and effort in this, as well as my money, to make sure that I learn and take away what's really essential for me to grapple with my most important challenges. So one thing that has stayed with me and has become a clear-cut area of work for me is what you mentioned in the very first session, which is about that design thinking calls for. And to my mind, I think all thinking calls for a clear head, a deep heart, and a thick skin. So that is something that that has stayed with me. In fact, I've actually storyboarded it, and I've made a list of very specific set of actions I'll do in the next 3 to 6 months to improve on each of these areas. So that's one. A second thing that actually has struck me. In fact, there's a long list of takeaways that I do have, but I can only focus on one or two top ones to actually work on. So the second thing that has stayed with me is what you just mentioned a while ago today, and that actually also connects me to my question that I'm going to ask you now. It's about the business model canvas and SCQA model, which will help me engage senior management. Now, my challenge has been exclusively in my current company. I've not had the challenge at all before in engaging with senior management. In the past, I've worked with a few other companies, but in my current company, I've had this challenge with engaging and selling ideas to top management, to senior management. And I had drafted specifically, I had drilled down my challenges to 3 specific areas, and I'm going to list them out for you. And I will seek support in how I can go ahead and improve on these areas, how I can get my audience to pay attention to me, or how I can drive an agenda that I have. And in fact, just a while ago, when you spoke to Pilinta, I think you mentioned that leaders need to embrace systems thinking, empathy, and inspiration. In fact, I was able to connect the 3 challenges that I had listed out to exactly these 3 challenges. So the first, and I'll qualify each of them with an example. The first challenge I face is typically the lack of focus on why, which I think is a challenge with systems thinking or big picture thinking. Typically, what happens with whenever I have conversations with members of senior management in my companies, they come up with things like, hey, we should do design thinking, or we should do assessment centers. So when I get into a conversation using the 5W and 1H, this thing, why are we doing this? What do we want to accomplish through this? The answers don't come. See, what I'm told is do one thing. You think through all this and you come back to me with a solution. So I need to retrofit their idea of using design thinking or assessment centers and also create a business case. This is a bit of a challenge that I'm facing. So I need to, and that's my reality. I'll have to work in this reality. So I need to figure out how to work in this reality. Okay, the second challenge that I face is related to strong hierarchical mindset. Now, I don't mean to complain. Essentially, this relates to empathy. So the thing is that I have made presentations about the frameworks that I'm talking about. I'll probably take that up in my discussion with you. When I joined in the first 3 months, I made a presentation about a 3-year journey. And then they said, yeah, okay, and all that. And then nothing happened on that. It was put in cold storage. 1.5 years later, a person joined 2 levels above me. Same presentation, same words, exact same things. It got solved. And the fact is, believe me, I'm far better in articulation than the person who actually presented this borrowed idea. I had presented it with examples, analog, and
it can happen. Yeah.
So I want to find out why is it, and initially I thought there was something wrong with me, but over a period of time, over the last 2 years, I've realized that decisions, the exact same decisions, same business case, when presented by a couple of levels up, they get the green light, and typically when they are presented by somebody lower in the hierarchy, they don't get green lighted. And this has happened, and I'm not saying just my example. I've heard this from almost everyone around me, saying that when you want to sell an idea to top management, get somebody higher in the hierarchy to present it. If you go and present it, it won't happen. So in an environment like this, how do I become more effective, and how do I enhance my influence to engage their empathy?
Yeah. So let's do one thing, Manoj. I think these are very serious. Yeah, they're very serious questions, and this would require a slightly more intimate, in-depth conversation. So we should take this up when we are doing that mentoring session.
Of course.
I think that will be the right justice, because in this open forum, I would not be able to speak to you about some of these topics. So let us take it up then.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Any closing remarks by you, Manoj?
Oh, well, I would say that I think I've taken away a lot from this. Now it's about implementing it, and I'm going to seek some inspiration on that as well when I speak to him. So thank you once again a lot, and
sure.
I've learned a lot from my cohort as well here today, and so my thanks to them as well.
Yeah, it's a fantastic cohort. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Let's go to Lavanya.
Good afternoon, Dr. Pawan. Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi, good afternoon.
To begin with, past experience, intuition, and common sense. So this is what stuck with me. I know a lot of them had mentioned about the SCQA model, but I'm going to skip that. And relating to my past experiences, I'm going to talk about what really stood out. The first thing is challenging assumptions. Now, in the L&D space, this is something that we miss each time, because we assume that this is what our customers want. And we also kind of put together something that we feel is right by not really brainstorming by not looking at the mind map. So this entire session itself was a really good experience, of which some of the things that I liked was around quantity leading to quality, on focused chaos, um, and human desirability, technical feasibility, and business viability. Now, this stuck with me, and I have been pretty much using this in the recent past, and it seems to have worked for me. So that is one. And then another thing that I really liked was the concept behind the right fit, where innovation arises, or rather is found between desirability, viability, and feasibility. Um, and I also like the part for design for the extreme. While we look at the ideal case scenario, we don't really look beyond that. I kind of liked that bit a lot. And as Plinta was mentioning, while we were discussing, uh, while we were looking at, oh my God, wait, just skipped my mind, the analog. When we were doing that, we started relating it to video games as well, as to how it proactively, like for example, we were talking about Mario and Just Dance, and how it allows the learner to compete with oneself as well as with the leaderboard. So those were my takeaways. My question for you is around, I did notice you explained a lot of concepts which was alien to me. Did a little bit of research on that, and I felt that there's more to it. So my question to you is, what comes next? What are those skills that I will need? Because I do know you had mentioned something on Agile, Scrum, things like these I'm not really aware of. So does it really require me to be a technical expert in understanding design thinking? Because I know this is not the end. There's more to it.
Yeah, so definitely not. You don't have to have a technical expertise, but you have to have a subject matter expertise. If HR is a domain, you need to be really in depth in HR, and you should be able to build your knowledge further on design thinking. Some of the books which I've referred to in the course and the online links. So if you can beef up your understanding about the topic by looking at those material, I think you'll be in a far better shape. But design thinking doesn't call for any technical skill as such. It requires thinking skills and not so much technical skills.
Okay, but it still does require me to have understanding of Scrum and Agile methodologies. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No.
No, okay.
No. I would not go that far.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Pavan. This was really very insightful session. I learned a lot. It's definitely going to contribute to my work. I also did my instructional design, and I can see how both of these come together now. So thank you so much.
I'm glad to have you, Lavanya. I appreciate that highly. Thank you. Let's go to Komal. I don't know if Komal is around. Shall we go to Kashmira? Go ahead, Kashmira.
Sure. Hi, Dr. Pavan. Hi, everyone. I think quite
Hi.
a bit of things that I had written, Dr. Pavan, have been echo. So I echo with the cohort, right? Everything that has been shared. Two things that I will focus on is one, just the way you taught us to focus on the problem statement and define that, right? Because every time, I think in my experience, every time I've had a project, somewhere or the other, it felt like there were areas which we could have done better. And if I look back at it today, which I did, in a retrospect, I feel like the problem wasn't as well defined. And I think the tools that design thinking, as part of this course you've shared with us in just defining the problem, are excellent. And I think that is one of my biggest takeaways, which is going to help me for the future projects that I take. That's one. The second one is around different ideation methods. And the reason I say that is, like everybody in the cohort has been talking about analogous, extreme, challenging assumptions. I think these methodologies are very strong, and to share a small success story around it, recently, in the last week rather, we had our Voice of Employee survey results come out, and like an every time exercise, when we walked our managers and leaders through the Voice of Employee results, the first thing they started talking about is, hey, we do this, we do that. Why are people not realizing it, and things like that. And in fact, me and my boss, who is the head of HR here, we were cracking our heads around how do we implement, or how do we get into action planning. So we've used two methodologies of ideation there, and challenging assumptions actually was a great aha, for me as somebody who was leading that, and also for the leaders, because what they realized in that, Dr. Pawan, is thinking from the employee's shoes, right? And we looked at empathy and divergent and convergent there. So we did challenging assumptions and divergent convergent using empathy as our essence of the entire conversation. So I think that was a great exercise. I actually got great feedback also for just the way we did that ideation. So I think that's a small success story I can share with the group here. So these are two of my very, very key
Very nice.
takeaways.
Thank you. Any question for me?
Yeah, just one question from your experience, Dr. Pawan, of leading this exercise as a consultant with so many organizations. Do you see any type of problem which is the most ideal problem to use design thinking as a methodology to resolve?
Yeah. So there are 4 qualifiers of a design thinking problem. The first is you need to have high level of ambiguity. It should not be a straightforward problem. It should be what we call as a wicked problem. Okay. The second is time. We need time because we have to entertain divergent and convergent thinking. Third is we need to have diversity of audience and diversity of participants. And the fourth is we need to have access to customers. Otherwise, we can declare victory all by ourselves, premature. So if these 4 conditions are satisfied, that is a good design thinking problem.
Okay. No, I think that's very helpful. Yeah. Because what we've done, Dr. Pawan, in the ideation exercise is this time we did not include only the business leaders. We also included our general and administrative functions like facilities, finance, legal. So it was a good ideation exercise. So yeah, I think it relates to what you just said.
Yeah, because diversity.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad you are implementing it already. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Let's go to Karthik. Karthiki.
Good evening, Dr. Pawan.
Yes, sir. Hi, good evening.
Yeah. For me, many railings in terms of you told us many aspects. I take 2. One is stakeholder mapping and empathy map. How we can use effectively when we solve the problem with the empathic manner. I'm really and thank you for giving us the project on the course of time. Right, it really helped us to implement what we learned, and really I'm excited to see the result because once we submit to you, we wanted to implement as a company. So Rick, thank you, and really thank you so much for sharing the videos and the books. It's really helping. Thank you. I don't have any specific question, Pawan.
Okay, all the best to you then. Thank you so much. Let's go to Jagjeevan.
Good evening, Pawan. So for me, the key, the perception towards design thinking, right? So at least when I initially thought it was more for engineers or probably more on the technical background, right? That's how I saw it, and now it's different. Like it is common for everyone. Just like the way the Lean or Six Sigma, when it kind of started, was more for a manufacturing company. It was more. So that's how I was thinking towards design thinking. I think that perception has changed. The other one is more in terms of mind mapping. Yes, I did know a base of that, But then when we were trying to do a project, where the team was working between me, Lavanya, and Plinta, I mean, we kept on doing that mind mapping exercise, which helped us to kind of do a lot of problem exploration, right? I mean, those are two learnings. The question that I have is, we talk about a lot about the empathy, right? But the empathy is going to be different for each person. And empathy is one major factor in this particular, in all the design thinking, right? So is there any standard techniques or, to make sure that empathy is uniform across? Because the way you treat people might be different from the way I do it, right? So is there any standard techniques or interview questions that we need to, or guidelines that we need to follow when we talk to employees or any stakeholders?
So I think, empathy is quite universal. When I say somebody is empathetic genuinely, the person would remain empathetic whether he or she is at home, at office, meeting a client or meeting a colleague. You cannot fake empathy. For instance, I cannot fake empathy in this classroom. I cannot be a very different person empathetically with my family members and with you. Otherwise, I'll end up creating a lot of stress for myself. So I would not say that there is a threshold level of empathy which you have to cross. But if you still develop empathy in all spheres of life, three things you need to do. The first thing is have very good listening skills. Today, if you look at the session, almost 80% of the time I would be listening to you. I would not be speaking much. But through listening, I'll absorb a lot of things which will help me prepare my responses in a far better manner and think relatively better. The second thing is good observation skills. And third thing is your willingness to defer or delay your judgment. So if you can be a better observer, better listener, and a less judgmental person, you would in general become more empathetic. And this empathy will travel across your spheres. So I strongly believe that empathy is a very universal attribute, just like intelligence. It doesn't happen that you are intelligent in one context and completely unintelligent in some other context. Similarly, emotional intelligence is pretty much standard across contexts, and that has to be cultivated instead of faked or engineered temporarily. So that's my view, Chakshi.
Thank you. Thank you, Pawan.
I hope that helps.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you. Let's go to Hema.
Hello, Dr. Pawan. How are you
Hema, if
doing?
you're around.
I really admire
Hi.
your capacity
Doing
to
good, thank you.
listen.
How are you?
Yeah, very fine. I really admire your capacity to
Thank you.
listen, because after some time it was just drifting for me. But again, thank you for really taking time off for 5 sessions with us. So when I went into design thinking workshop, I recollect I primarily thought I'm entering into a zone where I'll be learning some tools and techniques, which I did. I think over the last 4-5 sessions, you really have shared out all that and you've been large-hearted in many ways, even spending time off these sessions with us. But what I really came out of thinking is a more clarity in how I drive strategy across the organization. I think it gave me more tips and more techniques and more simplified ways of how do I not only create a vision for the organization that I'm part of, but then how do I articulate it? How do I, distill the right ideas down? Because when you are in meetings, largely there is enough brainstorming and there is no dearth of creativity many at times. People are really brimming with a lot of ideas. But the challenge sometimes is how do you distill those ideas in a methodical fashion and bring it to the vital few, and then also having the confidence that that vital few will really work for us. I think my personal takeaway has been just a clarity of how to go through the whole process. So while what you really intended was to nurture innovation, what I took back was how do I take in more clarity in my overall strategic thinking, strategic communication, and even driving the organization at large, right? Session takeaways. I always believed, just like you, I was a keen listener and empathy mattered a lot. And in my profession where I am in, it's a huge key success factor. I'm glad to note that, it is one of the platform or the foundation, if you will, for design thinking. So that's something I took back with a lot of pride. And the second part was what I mentioned was idea distillation. Also in the process, what I thought was that improved in my own skill set was the facilitation skills, because a lot of tools that you actually explain right from the beginning, SEQA and all of that, it actually refines the way you facilitate team and team discussions. So I'm glad that that will go in as one of my toolkits as well. A question for you, or sort of a deliberation, which I think I already asked this past week, was the time taken for such kind of ideation projects. In my mind, this should be a natural habit formation rather than a specific program called design thinking in the organization. I more so think this is like a habit formation that we should inculcate within the organization. And I just want to know your thoughts around that.
Yeah, it's a good question, Hima. The thing is that before people believe in this to be an important habit, they need a proof of concept.
Yeah.
And these programs and these projects can give that necessary proof of concept. Because how do they really distinguish that design thinking is for them? And yes, they can wholeheartedly embrace it. So once I take them through a project for about a week or 10 days or maybe a month, is when they get the confidence that yes, a really wicked problem could be solved with design thinking. And yes, it's not so difficult as well. And that's where I get the confidence that yes, I can go through it. So I think project is important. But as you rightly said, we should not stop at the project. It should
Yeah.
become a way of life.
Yeah. On the hindsight, I have a team that's planning to reach out to you. I think next week they'll reach out to you for a similar such workshop for a team.
Yeah, I got an email from, yes.
I look forward to
I
seeing.
look forward to.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, Hema. I appreciate that. Let's quickly go to Francis.
Good afternoon, Dr. Pavan, and good afternoon to you all.
Hi, good afternoon.
I'm really delighted to be in this program, because this program is the one I am longing for a long time. And I sponsored myself, I really thoroughly enjoyed this program. This program, helped me to grow as a person as well, So the two takeaways are, best ideas come from quantity, not the quality. That is really eye opener for me, I always, I thought that, people used to say, they always insist on quality. Even I did my ISO 9001 Six Sigma, all that, I've been taught like that, but then it doesn't matter, because quantity matters a lot. That is really a key learning point. During this ideation, quantity is leading to quality. That I figured out, that is matters a lot, because I slog a lot, to get perfection. In banks working for total rewards and all, it is a nightmare. But then, that was not my cup of tea. I need to, you opened a new door for me. And, few good ideas and a lot of average ideas matters a lot, that really helped me. Design thinking is a human-centric approach. That is, really touched my heart, because as a HR professional, we need to be a people person. We need to have heart in whatever we do, and that is what you are also emphasizing. Design thinking is a human-centric approach, and it also helps me to have a divergent thinking. All that some of my colleagues talked about. Actually, recently I did my psychometric profiling through TMS DI from UK. This is one of the popular and leading psychometric profiling approved by British Psychological Board. And I happen to be a promoter, developer. That's my personality. But that doesn't help me, that in the wheel, 16 type of personality, I need to have some person who's organized, putting things and implementation. So I need to figure out who would be my ideal team player. Then only we can complement each other, and then we can really deliver results in the company. So it is really important in any organization. We need to figure out who is the developer, promoter, organizer, thinking person, all that personality, and then we have to blend them. That leads to divergent thing, the diversity. That's the one point. Second point, your program helped me to figure out who all am I. This very in-depth and very deep question, because Morarji Desai was a president. After 100 years, some interviewer asked, "Sir, you held big positions. Now, what are you up to? What are you planning to do at this juncture?" Morarji Desai reflected for a while, and then he said, "Now I would like to figure out who am I." You know, that is a statement it published actually. And this program is leading us to know who all am I. You know, so from a small, you know, I lost my mother when I was 11 years old, but dad took care of me, all the 5 brothers, you know, and I was actively, you know, involved in various activities like dancing, being in a soccer team player, and I do drama, every drama in hostel and also school I participate. I am, you know, I'm a very popular guy, you know, and I do a lot of other things, music, singing, debating, running marathons. Every day I run 5 to 10 kilometers. You know, now I'm figuring out, no, this is all good for me. You know, it is not, you know, everybody says, sometimes my brothers used to say, you are a jack of all trades, but then, you know, having an in-depth expertise, and then, you know, T-shape, I would like to be a T-shape person is, no, it's a really eye-opener. And diversity of thoughts. And even I small, I used to observe my dad, you know, he used to collect different odd things, a screwdriver, something, nuts and bolts, and brings home. And then he collects, and then he, every day I see some innovation in my home. He lifts a dining table by, you know, putting stands, and then he puts pots, and, you know, a lot of innovative things he does actually. When I used to observe my dad. Likewise, you know, the same gene, I don't know, I picked up from my dad. I used to collect a lot of materials, you know, articles, books, and all, you know, tons and tons of books. You know, I from here I sent last year, and it took 7 months to reach because of the corona. But then, you know, in home and there also I have a lot of articles. You know, being a resourceful, and not necessarily in HR, but then, you know, different field will really does help me. And then, because, you know, I get a couple of chairman's award, you know, and my ideas are being recognized in the corporate world. And also I would like to, you know, emphasize that being a T-shaped person, it is helping me to, you know, move up the ladder. And also, it's not a good point, you know, even, for example, here my Bob, come see, he's my, you know, he's my colleague, but then he does small menial jobs, but I'm really loving him, because, you know, I'm very compassionate with him. You know, that really matters a lot. Being you know, looking at the person as a person, you know, not as a resource in the company, that really matters. So that what I'm the point what I'm making is to get paid for, you know, for being my death, but then I get promoted for my breath, and also being an empathetic person. Really thankful to you, doctor, for this course. My question is actually on the high level of, you know, there are that you talked about impact time matrix. Impact time matrix, you know, there are 4 quadrants. In that the right extreme, you have high time and low impact. You know, we have done, you know, iteration, and we brought a consensus, and then we chose the best ideas, you know, as a storytelling. But then in this quadrant, I don't see any benefit, value addition. This, you know. So I like to get a clarity on this. You know, what is the point, you know, having this ideas here, which is having high time and low impact? That's my question. Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah. So these are backup ideas.
Yeah.
These are ideas. If nothing works, you still have to have some backup. So the pipe dream will be backup ideas. That's the only utility of this idea. They can be blank also, but if you have a backup idea, you'll put it in that. Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Good to have you, Francis. Keep up your good work. Keep up. Be yourself. Okay.
Thank you.
Be yourself. That's the most important. Lovely to have you. Let's go to Damodaran. Can't hear you, Damodaran. There's a lot of noise. No, I muted him because I just can't make sense out of both. Damodaran, I can't hear you. I think you have to type your statement. It's not working out. Okay. All right. Let's go to Asif. Asif, go ahead, please. Go ahead, Asif, if you are around.
Good evening, Dr. Pavan.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. It has been a
Hi.
great pleasure to attend this program. Thank you very much for being so kind enough to send your book. It's an excellent book. I had great fun reading it. And
Thank you.
this whole experience has been great, learning from my participants. The two things that are important takeaways for me is, the first one is, I am of the strong opinion that as you learn design thinking, you are also learning to become a better human being. And all the qualities of being a better human being are imbibed in this concept. The second thing, which was a major takeaway for me, was SCQA and business model canvassing. Sir, my question would be to you, because this is the first opportunity for me to interact with an author. How does it feel about writing a book? I would definitely want some insights regarding this. Thank you.
It's a good question. And I wasn't expecting this question, by the way. So it requires a lot of discipline. That's one thing about writing a book. You can't simply write a book if you are not, you can't write a book accidentally. It has to be very planned, well thought out effort. And there are moments in the middle of your writing expedition where you might feel exhausted, especially if you have to go through rounds and rounds of revision of your work. Your editor might come back to you saying that this page, this paragraph, this sentence, this chapter doesn't make sense. And you have to really go through this iteration. So the entire book writing journey for me was pretty much mimicking design thinking. Start with inspiration, empathizing with my audience. So that kind of language which I've used, the examples which I've used, Indian examples, simple language, figures, all of this was keeping my audience in mind. The book is not to exhibit my intelligence. The book is to exhibit what I can do with my audience. It's to help them. Iteration and scaling. Somebody asked me that, are you started writing the second book? And I said that unless and until my first book, which is Design Your Thinking, crosses a certain number, say 30,000, 40,000 copies being sold, I'm not going to write my next book. Because what is the point? What is the point in writing when people don't read it? If you're writing something, you write it well enough that people have the incentive of reading it. So I think the entire book writing journey has been that of discipline, has been that of humility, cleansing your own thinking, and pushing it. Because it was very easy for me to put a book and assume that the publisher has to push the sales of the book, or Amazon has to push the sales of the book. But every day I have to ensure that I'm pushing my book, I'm socializing my book. So I think it is an entrepreneurial journey on top of it, and it is very well satisfying, because 40 years from today, when I will hang my boots, accidentally or incidentally, if one thing that I'll be particularly happy about, if not proud of, would be the book that I have written. So the life goes on, but to do something which stands out, you need to take that amount of time and peace of mind. And that's been my learning, Asif. Thanks for asking the question. Thank you. Do you have anything else? Any other question, Asif? Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's quickly go to Asha. Asha, go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi, sir, and hi
Hi.
to all of you once again. Definitely, it's an inspiration to learn something from you, sir, in terms of your knowledge, in terms of your patience, and the other, attributes of yours, which has really helped me and person to really trigger an interest into this subject. So that is the first thing. The book, Design Your Thinking book, which we have gone through, is done in a very simplified manner for all of us to read through, like a storybook. And that is something which I really kept reading through, and also has it has shown a lot of real-time experiences in that book as well. So it was always a calling for me to read the book again, read the chapter, go through it. So that is an interest area which has come in. Now, the two major takeaways which I would like to share. By the way, my internet is slow, so I hope I'm audible to all of you.
Yeah, it's good right now.
Okay. The first point is we all ideate. We do have on various, it could be on personal, professional, on various matters. We do have a lot of thoughts. We do ideate, but then we don't put it in a structure. We don't structure the entire thought process. So that which you have, taught us through a concept called a clear head, a deep heart, and a thick skin. That is something which really triggered me. And if you really want to ideate and take it to a serious note, so that you can bring in a solution out of it. The second thing is definitely on empathy. Today's talk and otherwise also, it's always empathy which we have shown or displayed, but how do we see through the employees or see through the customers was something which you have actually taught us in the class. And the SEQA model, we all talk to senior leadership team, but then this model has really helped us to really ideate and put our thoughts in a proper manner. The second concept which I really liked is on triangulation, which you mentioned. Triangulate your problems and see if your stakeholders resonate the same way. So, which was something, again, where you talk about empathy and you triangulate your thoughts, and you triangulate through the ideation methods, which you have also, took us on the 5 methods which we can adopt. Any of the 3 which we can adopt was something which I really, learned through. And it was like every week I had something to learn and something to do. And over a period of this 2 weeks, my PPT skills also have improved to an extent that I can make the presentation in the way it is required. And now definitely the execution stage also, which we went through, and the horizon 1, 2, 3, where I could understand in our company, we are presently looking at a finance shared services center. So where we talk about it and how the approach is in a simultaneous manner. From horizon 3 to achieve horizon 3, we need 2 and we need 1, and we do work towards it in a simultaneous manner. So I could really appreciate your thoughts towards this topic. So these are the just which I thought I should share with you. And above all, your patience, your time, even at 11:30 in the night to reply to my email is something which I really, I'm really humbled, and I feel touched when you have responded to my emails at late hours. The time that you have given us, to each one of us, to respond to emails, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
It was very encouraging to take, to do the project. The question here, it's not a question, maybe it's a query or a doubt from my side. We all talk about empathy, but and we also try to particularly through the employee side, because I'm from the HR side. So after certain level of a win-win situation, I understand, I iterate, I bring out a solution. But how do we manage empathy? That is also, I have not learned emotional intelligence, but then I would like to know, how do we manage that empathy? Because somewhere in the class you had mentioned that empathy is nothing but unmet or unarticulated needs of the customer or the employee. So how do we manage all of that is something which I thought if I could, find out from you.
Yeah, it's a good question, Asha. I think empathy has to have a purpose. That's important. Suppose I am empathetic towards you, but I do not have any purpose of that empathy. Then I would go on and on listening to the other person, on and on empathizing with the other person without any outcome. So if both the parties have a purpose which is well stated, so for example, if you're talking to the customer and you're demonstrating empathy, the purpose of that empathy towards the customer is to understand the customer's pain point. So while you're listening to the customer, it is also your objective to drive the discussion in that direction in which he or she speaks about the pain points about your product. If you talk to a customer and suppose he or she starts talking about something completely tangential, maybe for 1 or 2 minutes you should listen to build the rapport. But if you do not arrest that flow of thoughts and bring the discussion back to your topic, then it is your mistake. And that's where the element of thick skin comes into picture. So the clear head is to have a clarity of objective. The deep heart is to start the conversation with some small talk. Small talk means that where are you from, what has been your past job, etc., etc., how's the weather, etc. But then the thick skin means that bringing the discussion back to your purpose. In the absence of a purpose, empathy can be quickly resulting into mediocrity. And that's my real risk. So you'll be very careful that the boundary condition of empathy has to be respected. That's what I think, Asha. I hope it is useful to you. I guess if screen is frozen, so I would let her come back to me. In the interim, yes. In the interim, shall we go to Ashwini? Ashwini Kumar. Yes,
Hello, Dr. Pawan. Hi, Ashwini Kumar here. I just joined actually. I'm sorry, I had a personal emergency. I just finished and came back from hospital. I just joined. I'm sorry.
What happened?
My wife had to visit this dentist. It was an issue with the teeth, and now I came back. Everything is okay. Yeah, root canal too.
Root canal is tricky. Okay, so what we are wanting to hear from you, Ashwini, is your key takeaway from the session.
From the last 4 sessions?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, a lot of things are there. One thing, of course, is to empathize with the customer. How do I understand the customer needs, which are told by him or her, or some things which are not told by him or her, and how to be in their shoes and to understand how he feels and thinks and what is his real need. And of course, there are a lot of techniques, tools and techniques which I have learned, which I would like to practice for the project which we have taken. And of course, as one of my colleague, Mr. Chandrasekhar, would have said that next week we are having a session with you.
Yeah.
We have already started the preparatory work for that. We are getting ideation. We are having ideation session with people from not only from our own department, but from other departments as well as watch division and machine building. So yeah, so we'll come back to you with a comprehensive presentation.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it then. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Yeah, Damodaran, I got the points on the chat. So I think we are good because your voice is just too loud out there. So I got the drift. So let me read Damodaran's point before I go to Arun. The next would be Arun. So Damodaran says, key takeaways: T-shaped empathy and expertise. Einstein case study the importance of spending activities like playing music instrument, painting, organizing social gatherings. Stage gate process will not work in iterative process. SCQ, elevator pitch, go to proto for any meeting. And question: idea is repeated while applying different ideation tools. Is it normal? Yeah, so ideas will repeat. Idea, that's natural for ideas to repeat, but your objective should be to capture unique ideas only and not repeat the ideas. So repetition of ideas is quite natural. Okay, let's quickly go to Arun then. Arun, would you like to share your takeaways with me? Yes, Arun, go ahead.
Hi, Pawan. Can you see me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Same here.
Many times, several times we have met in your workshops and titles. My all-time favorite thing is 820 rule. First thing, and second, now getting a prototype ready when you make a pitch or more than presentation, because people mind are more adaptive or able to understand in a three-dimensional fashion rather than a 2D presentation or in drawing. So that is one thing. My question to you is maybe slightly out of design thinking. I feel that we are living in the age of optimization. Like the age of invention, it's long gone. Isaac Newton found gravity without nothing, like paying nothing. It's just an apple falling down. He found that gravity. Whereas a Higgs boson requires a multi-billion-dollar particle accelerator. So going at this rate, inventing a new thing by creativity is almost next to impossible. So being in an optimization age, now the artificial intelligence or bots or algorithms are working in a very, very unimaginable way. That is, gone are those days when we in engineering, we studied about this traveling salesman and operational research. Now bots are the algorithms are working in such a manner. Amazon getting delivered. No one, neither Amazon knows that where exactly this algorithm is working. So it's completely in the cloud by a machine. These things are happening. So how long will it take, or how far we are to giving a creativity to the artificial intelligence and giving making us more obsolete?
Very good question. I like the question. So a lot of merit in the question. So the role of the human beings will shift away from solving problems to finding the problems which are worth solving. That will be our role now. We'll not become obsolete. Okay. So once again, if I refer back to the book which I'm reading right now, or I finished reading Range, what it talks about in this book is with every passing year, a lot of sophisticated tasks will be taken on by machine. But intuition, values, and discovery of a problem which is worth important would still be defined by human beings. And that's where I'm saying that if somebody is a chess player, there is a very interesting interview of Gary Kasparov in this book. Gary Kasparov was the grandmaster of chess for a very, very long time. And Gary Kasparov lost out to Big Blue in 1997 chess match in Russia. Big Blue was a supercomputer from IBM. And ever since, computers have become more and more powerful. And what Gary Kasparov says is that I would definitely lose out to a swath of computers because they are doing millions of calculations per second. But if I put a bunch of human with computer together and another human computer combination, then this human computer combination will win because of the human being. So there's human computer combination versus a computer alone on the other side. The human computer combination will always win. So I think we as human beings have a uniqueness in terms of our perspective, in terms of knowing which problems to solve, having the value system, and having intuition. And our job should help us to sharpen some of these aspects instead of fighting it out with the machine. So it's a very, very good and very pertinent question, Arun. I'm so happy you asked this question. And that's where empathy is something that machines cannot take on from us. I don't see in the near future machines becoming empathetic. Machines will become intelligent. So there is artificial intelligence, but thankfully there is no artificial empathy so far. Okay, I do not know about the future, but so far. So I think we need to further become more humans than more machines in the way we function. That's my take on it, Arun. It's a brilliant question, though. I really appreciate that. I hope it helps. Thank you so much, Asha. You asked me a question. I gave attempted a response. Was it satisfactory, Asha? Didn't hear from.
Actually, sir, my net was really weak and I had to log out, and now it's better. So I'm sorry. I could only get up to that empathy requires a meaningful purpose.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Meaningful conversation.
when you manage, if you have to manage empathy, you really need to know the purpose, and it should be meaningful. So that's where I have got the crux. I don't know whether anything beyond that is there. Okay.
Yeah, so what I'm suggesting is any empathy without objective becomes mediocrity.
Yeah.
Objective is very, very clear that if I'm listening to you, for example, if I'm showing empathy when I'm listening to you, I need to ensure that I'm distilling insights from that conversation. Otherwise, even the other person would understand that you are just being there for the heck of it. You are actually not listening to me. So that objectivity is very critical. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's go to Aarti. Go ahead, Aarti. Can't hear you though. I can't hear you, Aarti. Yeah, you might be on mute. That's quite possible. I can see you though, but I can't hear you. Just check your local setting in case you might be on mute. On the system, you look like unmuted here. No, I can't hear you. I'm afraid I can't. Try speaking into the mic. If you're put the jack, you can start speaking into the mic. Oh, now let me see. Yeah, I Yeah, now you unmute yourself. Yes, it should work now. Please unmute. I can't hear you again. I'm so sorry. I can't hear you. I hope you can hear me. Arti, in the meanwhile, you fix it up. Would you like to type your takeaways on the phone, on the chat? Should that be fine by you? All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Glad. Let's quickly move to Anand in that case. Anand, please go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Dr. Pawan. First time in my life, I have ever wondered how much is the waiting time. And thank you so much for giving me that opportunity.
Glad.
Uh, Thank you so much, Dr. Pawan, for this entire beautiful workshop done. I mean, it's a jam-packed session with so much of learnings around it. I mean, at times we feel overwhelmed that where exactly I should have become a Ravan, that I can compensate so many of intakes with such brilliant minds around there. And this book, Pawan, I mean, the things that you have mentioned here, it's a comprehensive package. I mean, hats off to you. If I can just scroll down in any page that I move across, I don't remember the last book that I have read. In every page, there is a highlighted mark because I cannot forego or I cannot have a forbidden energy gap that I should leave this or I should leave that. So next time, Dr. Pawan, I mean, if you really want to test somebody's emotional and intellectual quotient, you should ask the participant that remove the one which you don't feel which is important. And I mean, that will be absolutely test of design thinking approach. Really, it's absolutely a comprehensive package, Dr. Pawan. Thank you so much for making us assimilate to this particular, I would be saying, a gem book. Learnings and takeaways, as I mentioned, there are many of them, but just trying to quote it across uh, because in people or hard brainers like in person, in face to face to you, I won't comment anything on the book that I can recommend, but definitely one movie that I can recommend to because I'm a movie buff. And the movie name is A Walk to Remember. I don't know how many people have watched that, but Walk to Remember is why I'm saying this because at that movie, at the end of that movie, there is one statement which is being asked to the uh, lead actor that for you, what is love? And he explains that I cannot define love because it's a feel. It's like air, and you need to feel that. And for me, if you have the love for the design thinking, you just need to feel. And the crux element is if you have the feel, you need to be empathetic in that case. So the entire world revolving around the human centricity, I have never given that much, I'll be candid enough that I have never been that much importance to this empathetic factor ever for any problem solvings because till now, whatever the problem solving techniques that we have been through, my other colleagues have mentioned like DMAC, 5 Whys, etc. The human factor was absolutely one of the things which was even if it is not missing, I would be saying the percentage was too less. And design thinking, I would be saying this is the inflection point for you, where exactly it is the turning point and making this human centricity approach. So that is my takeaways if I'm going to accumulate in one statement. And Dr. Pavan, I do not have a question to ask you for, but it's definitely an input that one of the reasons that I instilled myself to become a part of this program that uh, me and Major Vishal's aspiration is to develop the design thinking lab at MCure. And in the book on page number 35 to 37, one of the things that you have mentioned about this design thinking lab was the biocon. Sorry, in the Dr. Reddy's lab, DRL.
Yeah.
And we want to say this, that the next book, whenever you're going to approach, I guess you can take the pilot case study from MCure. And I'm really looking forward to scale it up to that level. And possibly it's in Horizon 3 as of now, but definitely I would like, me and Vishal would like to have your inputs to bring this out. So we will be in touch with generating many sort of the steps, ideas, the ecosystem to be that much conducive enough to have that design thinking lab set up here at MQ.
Yeah, would love to help you with that. Fantastic. And you have been such a great sport. I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Really appreciate that. Let me go back very quick to Aarti. Aarti, any luck with the audio? Or would you like to? Yeah, so yeah, Aarti writes, I would like to thank you for such wonderful sessions. Thank you, Aarti. The concept I loved the most was the elevator pitch. SCQA model and design for the extreme is good exercise for our brain and to think of the extreme situations for creative innovation solutions. Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Aarti. Let me know if you have any questions for me. I'll be very glad to respond to your questions. Having said that, I missed out somebody. I know I did. I miss out anyone, by the way? I saw Vikram very briefly here. Please let me know if I missed out anybody. Looks like all are covered. That being the case, then I think this is the time for us to say goodbye to each other. And I would strongly thank Avinash and others from the NHRD team, because they were really working hard behind the scenes to make this possible today. And I could not have pulled otherwise. So I think they always deserve. So do thank them. Do write an email to them, please. All of you, please do that. Do thank them, because they're really doing out of love and passion of learning. And if you want such events to happen more often, do write an email to them. That will be really useful. Do reach out to me. Take this opportunity to have one-on-one discussions with me. It's very, very useful to you and useful to me also. Selfishly, I want to learn a lot from you. So that's the reason I'm requesting you once again. I will be doing the next cohort in 2 months' time. I would want you to spread the kind word to your network and see if more people can get benefit from this thing. And do take time to finish the book. Finishing a book is a great statement of character, because many times you start leaving things in between. It becomes a habit. You start leaving everything in between: relationship, work, assignments, books, everything and anything, movies, etc. I think it's important to endure through something and finish it so that you can get that enormous amount of confidence. I'm sure if I can finish writing a book, certainly you can finish reading one. So thank you so much, one and every, and really appreciate your time and patience and endurance with me. Glad that we could finish the session on time. I don't want to eat into your time. So thank you so very much once again. Have a good evening, good day, and be in touch. Take care. Bye. Everybody. Bye. Bye.
And Dr. Pawan, I appreciate your acumen once again to do the reverse alphabetical order exactly 100%. Even the letters, Asha, Aarti, Arun, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I think the listing also assisted me, I guess. So that helps.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Thank you,
you
Dr.
so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Sonia, a small request and a suggestion. Going forward, it will be nice if we can have the book inscribed by you before we get it.
Oh, yes.
It will be a great memory for all the participants, and it will be like really, really nice.
Yes, doctor.
I would encourage you to meet me and get it.
Sure. I look forward. Where are you based? Which location, sir?
I'm in Bangalore.
Okay, great.
I'm in Bangalore.
Bye-bye, everyone. Have a great evening.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much, doctor. And really, I don't know how to express. Many people express their thoughts, and especially the last chapter. And you are giving a tips now how to be, really decent thinker. That is the crux of the matter. And I already read that. Curious mind is a creative mind, and many things are there. That is itself, that a lot of value in it. The last chapter is amazing. Thank you, doctor.
Thank you so much, Francis.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank
Thank you all. We should be in touch. All of us should be in touch, and let's learn together.
Absolutely, Asha. Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Pawan didn't want this to end, but sadly it's ending. So, hopefully we'll find other avenues to be in touch. But, thank you for everything. And, it's been special. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Dr. Pawan, thank you so much for your sessions. These were really very insightful. I wish to connect with you further. There are some things that I want to ask you, which I may not be able to in this forum. So if it's okay, I'll just set some time with you.
Absolutely, Lavanya.
Yeah.
Very much. Would look forward to. Do reach out.
Thank you very much. Very insightful session. Really great book, and I'm definitely going to finish that. One question I had for you was exactly how big is your bookshelf?
It has, close to 1,000 books.
Figured. Okay, super. I'll connect with you one-on-one, and I'll probably talk more then. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.